Obviously, we are not on the floor of a packed and excited Bell Center in Montreal, but the most important thing about the draft has remained constant. However and wherever it has been held, the draft is where a young man's dreams come true.
The New York Rangers are proud to select Alexis Lafreniere.
Who is Tim Stützle?
A heck of a play, and what a moment for the youngster.
Going up, never coming down. Yeah, my feet got lifted straight above the ground. Yeah, see me on top, headed for the crown. Said it, I'm the one, that's what they call me now.
He's got every part of his game, and the scary thing is he's still growing.
Think this guy likes scoring goals or what?
We turn it on right now.
Skates extremely well, handles the puck extremely well. This guy's got the complete game.
Can't wait for the draft to happen and to see where I'm going.
It's draft night in the NHL. The anticipation building as prospects from around the globe wait for their dreams to become reality. Some will follow a path that other families have already walked. The Hughes brothers will soon learn that they'll be split 3 ways across the league, or if the youngest Luke is destined to play alongside Quinn or Jack. The World Junior Summer Showcase about to get underway in Plymouth, Michigan. Technically, the USA boys. Cheer up, boys. They're in Livonia, Michigan. That's Torrey Krug's crib, right?
There we go.
Team USA gathered to celebrate the names they're about to hear. The same is true for Team Sweden, also in Plymouth, Michigan, for the event and gathered for their own draft party. Welcome in. What a night of hockey it is. Not just the draft, but just a great night just to talk hockey with my hockey friends here. Sam Cosentino from Sportsnet. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to be here.
For our American viewers, he's our Canadian Mel Kiper Jr. Fellow cast member Kevin Weeks, on with ESPN and ABC for the next few years. Love to have you as a teammate, Weeksy.
Appreciate you.
And, of course, Jeff Gordon, former GM of the New York Rangers. You were in the Buffalo Sabres chair this time last year. We'll get his thoughts on that. So, again, it's a big night for this draft, setting the scene, but really a virtual insanity type of year, Sam. Trying to scout players off of Zoom, off a computer, off your phone. What's the challenge for GMs tonight?
So many different elements come into play here, but it's the live viewings and the lack of live viewings where there's a big problem. You can't see what's happening behind the scenes, what a player is doing, behind the play, when he goes to a bench, how he reacts with his teammates, the coaching staff. And so you need to see all that stuff to complete the picture. Also, we missed out in the NHL Combine. That's huge. Mm-hmm. You get some physical testing in there, and you get to meet the person face-to-face. Not in a Zoom where they can kind of deke you out. They're hanging out in their own house. But face-to-face, shake their hand, look you in the eye. What's this guy all about? The character piece that comes along with this. So no doubt it's been a huge challenge. But, hey, lots of video, a lot of conversation. Game time now.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the college scouts, whether it's college, junior, pro, those amateur scouts that are in the building, you know this. I don't want to give away too much of your trade craft, but all that to say they've got the glasses down and they're on the nose and they're looking in the hallway to see who they can see, how the players appear to be maturing physically and where they're at. But a different year, as you pointed out. So it's different information gathering at this point, but nonetheless, it sets up to be very intriguing.
Yeah, the variance of team to team, where they evaluate players, will be very interesting after the fact. Jeff Gordon, Bridgewater State in the house. New York Ranger fans recognize him, their GM who has brought that team back, constructed them the last 2 years, where they're on the precipice of perhaps becoming a big-time Eastern Conference player with a couple more correct additions. Also a great draft in 06 with the Bruins as the interim GM. That helped, of course, spawn Stanley Cup in Boston. Jeff, you were in the Buffalo Sabres chair now. I'm really curious. When you're the number 1 overall pick, is it your call? Does the owner get in your ear? How much do the scouts push you? What's going to happen with Kevin Adams and the Sabres tonight?
It's the general manager's call. I think as you go down the draft, the rest of the picks start becoming more of the scouts. But this is you're going to be attached to this player for a long time. Mm-hmm. You want to make the right selection. You've gone through the interview process. You've met the family. This is the general manager's process. This is my decision, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
And they, of course, on the clock, the Buffalo Sabres, the first overall pick of this 2021 NHL draft. Big major news before we hit the air tonight. Seth Jones, holy shnikes. He goes from Columbus. He told the Blue Jackets he's going to test free agency, so they deal him to the Chicago Blackhawks. They flipped the first-round picks this year. So Columbus now picks 12th overall as well as 5th overall. Chicago gets their 32nd overall pick. Columbus got that from Tampa Bay. You see the return for Columbus also got Adam Boqvist as well, a former #1 draft pick. Moments ago, our Emily Kaplan caught up with John Davidson, president of the Blue Jackets, to talk about this monster deal.
John, Seth Jones to the Chicago Blackhawks. Tell me what happened with this trade.
Well, it's not something that happened easily. You know, with the Seth Jones situation, he did not want to sign an extension with the Blue Jackets with 1 year remaining on his contract. So we've decided to do the best that we can to get the return that we need as we continue to grow as a franchise. Seth's a great guy. He's a great player. He had every right in the world to do what he did. I don't hold that against him one bit. I know he loves this place, but he made a decision personally and professionally for himself. With us, we've spent days and days trying to put a deal together, and the deal with the Hawks is real. I can't get into the entire package just yet until it comes out, but one thing we do know is we get Chicago's first pick in the round one. They will get our number 31 as part of that from Tampa Bay in the David Savard trade. So this is hockey. This is what it is, and when you're dealt cards, you got to deal with them.
So what does this say about the direction of the franchise next year and the next couple years?
Build as quickly as you can and as best as you can. Draft, develop, continue to do what we do. I think Columbus is a great city. I know players that are here love this place, and we're going to get a lot of good young ones coming in here. This is going to be fun to watch this.
I know there's a lot of players that love this place. Cam Atkinson is right behind us, but Seth Jones was a popular player.
Yep.
He's not the only popular player who's left recently. I know a lot of fans are disappointed. What do you say to them?
Hang with us. This is a great city. There's great fans here. You're seeing that a little more, I think, in all sports, all pro sports around. Baseball players leave, basketball players are doing it, football players do it. We're seeing it now in hockey some. So you deal with what comes your way, and at the same time, you try to do the best you can in the return aspect of things. We're very happy with what this deal has become. Now it's up to us to really make sure we take advantage of it.
Thank you so much, John.
My pleasure.
Back to you guys.
I love Ohio, too, for the record. Went to high school and college there. Jeff, you know that man. You work with that man.
Yep,
what was going through the Columbus Blue Jacket offices this week when you're forced to make a deal like this for a guy you know who's going to walk after this year?
Yeah, I think the reality of the situation is the players have a lot of say now, right? Yeah. You get to the end of your contract. You can decide where you're going to sign and force the issue. And it looks a little bit like that. Columbus got some picks here and hopefully move their team forward with some picks. Chicago gets a great player. But it looks to me like it's a player that decided only a few teams he was going to go to. And Chicago obviously wins the sweepstakes.
Elite defensemen are hard to come by. They don't make a lot of Seth Jones out there. This guy's elite. We know that. His ability to skate, control the game, play major minutes, and impact the game in different ways. Provide a little physicality, too. Doesn't hurt that his brother is there now as well. Crafty move by Stan Bowman in acquiring Caleb. So those two will be paired with each other at some point, I would assume. But here's the other thing, too. This really kind of resets the landscape now. Because now as we look at this draft, maybe some general managers are thinking a little differently about defensemen. There's some elite D to be had in this one. So that kind of changes the dynamic a little bit, Sam.
The impetus for this trade is Kevin Adams, and what he did as a rookie general manager going to Philadelphia, he gets a D-man back in return. Ristolainen goes out. He gets a first and a second. Well, now Jarmo Kekalainen's sitting there and saying, if that's the asking price for Ristolainen, Jones is a better player. Yeah. And so what do? We add that additional first-round pick. There you go. But it was Kevin Adams who set the tone for this deal.
And he signs a big extension, Seth Jones does, in Chicago. So that great hockey city welcomes Seth Jones for a long, long time. Well, of course, this is draft night. We'll have trades, and hopefully we have another big one as the draft night commences. But this is the night that these players, these young men, their dreams come true. And, boy, the University of Michigan is a big theme in this year's draft. Owen Power, hockey sense, vision, size, could be a #1 D-man. Matthew Beniers, future captain in the league. He'll play every situation. Self-improver. Kent Johnson, elite brain, unbelievable skill. Could play center, might be a top 10 scorer as a winger. Much like Kyle Connor of Winnipeg, who also went to Michigan. And tonight, Luke Hughes, who will play in Michigan this fall. with possibly all three of those players who have intimated they'll return to Michigan, Luke Hughes could join them. We expect him to be a top 10 pick tonight, Sam. And this is your latest mock draft. How did you reach this point right here with these 10 players?
Well, you look at Matty Beniers, and he's a guy that Kevin talked about setting the identity for a franchise, and I think that's why he's a great fit for Seattle. And then you look down at Luke Hughes, the opportunity to be able to play with your brother. You know the family, you know the player. You have some certainty in what you're getting there. And, of course, he's one of the younger players in this draft, so you'd expect his ceiling to be a little bit higher. And then you go down and you look at Kent Johnson. This guy is a highlight reel machine in the making. Mel Pearson, an embarrassment of riches. And it doesn't stop there. The recruiting class. Samoskevich is coming there. Dylan Duke is going over there. Hughes is going over there. My goodness, he's got to find minutes for all these guys.
Well, we do expect Owen Power to go first. Why?
There's so many reasons. I mean, we'd probably be on this show for about 3 hours if we wanted to extol the virtues of Owen Power and the value and the merits of him being that one overall pick. Any situation, no problem. We looked at Seth Jones. Now you're looking at somebody coming in like an Owen Power who has a lot of the same similarities. Right-hand shot defenseman, big, agile. And I spoke to Dan Ninkovich, who works with him back home in Toronto, who also mentioned, and I saw on his Instagram yesterday, that this is a guy that wants to be at the rink all the time. I heard you talking off air about guys that love it, guys that are really good at it. This is a guy that's both. He fits both of those bills for me. I think that this is the way to go.
Yeah, when we're trying to build our teams, this is what we want, a 6'6" defenseman that can play against the best players, can play power play, penalty kill. You want him out at the end of the game, no matter what the score is, whether you're winning or losing. He's won in his history, tons of character. This is a great ad for Buffalo.
You talk a little bit about that dedication. So he's a Canadian kid at Christmas time. He didn't have the opportunity to go home because of the quarantine, didn't go to the World Juniors. And so he called the Chicago Steel and said, hey, guys, do you mind if I come over there and hang out and skate with you? And it wasn't just skate. It was all about being engaged in the process, going to the video meetings, preparing and doing all the things properly. I love that dedication for this young man.
Yeah, the coaches love them as well. All three of those Michigan players, great self-evaluators of their own game, self-improvers, great teammates, also more to add to their resume. Well, we expect perhaps to have more news coming into the night, maybe another big trade. Maybe Jack Eichel gets moved. Elliot Friedman, of course, of Sportsnet will be with us throughout the night. Elliot, maybe reaction to what's happened. How seismic do you feel it was? And could we see more action tonight?
It was seismic, John. You were joking before the show about not combing my hair. It all blew out with all the trades today. I don't have any more. But, it was a huge day. The Vancouver-Arizona deal was a huge trade. As you mentioned, the Chicago trade with Columbus was a huge trade. Buffalo has already made the one deal, as you guys talked about, and they're the team everybody now watches as they sit number one on the clock. I think there was at least one team that asked them if they would consider moving down from the number one spot. I think that team that tried to ask was Anaheim. I don't think it went anywhere. The Ducks are picking third overall, but the Sabres showed no inclination to do it. I think another Sabres player, I haven't heard as much about Eichel today because the price on him has been so high, but I have heard a lot of talk about Sam Reinhart. I think Columbus has been around there at times. I think Florida's been around there at times, and I don't think they've been alone. So Buffalo is a team that will remain to be hot, the spotlight on them, even past the number one pick overall tonight.
Again, for our American viewers, Elliot's a great follow on Twitter. He's our Adam Schefter. Follow him all night long to get the very latest in hockey moves. Thank you so much, Elliot. So let's do it after a short timeout. It's time to begin the 2021 NHL Draft. The Buffalo Sabres on the clock. Commissioner Gary Bettman will join us, and then the players from around the globe waiting to hear their name, their dream.
Vancouver selects Quinn Hughes.
Quinn Hughes, he's absolutely electric. He makes plays all the time.
First career NHL goal, Quinn Hughes.
He's a complete player and a superstar.
Turnover, Hughes scores.
Holy cannoli, what can this kid do?
The New Jersey Devils are proud to select Jack Hughes.
There's number one for number one.
His hockey IQ, it's off the chart.
Here's Hughes walking in, backhander, he scores! Oh, the kid's on fire tonight.
Sky's the limit for Hughes.
Another great night for the Hughes family. Quinn went 7th in 2018. Jack first overall in 2019. We expect Luke to go anywhere from 4 to 9. This would be the first family to have 3 boys taken in the top 10 of an NHL draft. Sutters and Stalls came close. Not quite, though. So quite an accomplishment theirs. But it is the Buffalo Sabres who are on the clock Jeff Gordon, and what can a number 1 overall draft pick do for your franchise?
It's going to move you forward. When you're picking 15, 13, 12 late in the draft, people are excited. They can't wait to get their pick in there and get moving and get them developed. When you pick it first overall, it's a chance to move it really forward. And you look around the league, the teams that are really successful, that have won Stanley Cup, you see a lot of lottery picks in there. And the opportunity to get a lottery pick is going to set it forward and maybe put a guy in your team right away.
All right, well, the Buffalo Sabres already making moves today with a trade. They have the 14th overall pick to go along with that first overall pick. The selection is coming soon, but first, Commissioner Gary Bettman.
Good evening, and welcome to the 2021 NHL Draft. Given its place and time shortly after the end of the Stanley Cup Final and the role it plays in focusing our league on the future, the NHL Draft is both the closing event of one season and the opening act of another. So let me begin by wrapping up the season just ended. Congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning, who became just the second team since 1998 to win consecutive Stanley Cups. Congratulations also to the Montreal Canadiens for their inspiring run to the final. And speaking of the Canadiens, thank you again to Jeff Molson and your organization for being patient with us for one more year. Our plan is to be with you next year to conduct the 2022 NHL Draft in front of a packed house at Montreal's Bell Center. Yes, for the second straight year, we are coming to you not from our customary spot on the floor of an NHL arena. Rather, we are at the studios of the NHL Network. And consistent with the future look at the draft, in addition to our partners Sportsnet and TVA in Canada, the 2021 NHL Draft is being broadcast in the United States by our new partner, ESPN. Welcome, ESPN and the Walt Disney Company. We also welcome another new member to the NHL family tonight. Picking second, the Seattle Kraken will make its first NHL Draft selection. The annual draft started in 1963. Over the years, it has changed and evolved. But one thing has remained constant no matter the name, the format, or the venue. The NHL Draft is where dreams of playing in the NHL and hoisting the Stanley Cup become more real. Congratulations to all of the players who will hear their names called over the next 2 days, and to the parents, relatives, coaches, and friends who helped get those players to this point. So let's get started. The first selection in the 2021 NHL Draft belongs to the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo, you're on the clock.
And there they are. They've missed the playoffs the last 10 seasons. That's the longest active playoff drought in the NHL. Worst record in the league over the last 7 years. There's a lot to fix here. The Bagulas have fixed the Buffalo Bills. They are thriving. But they haven't fixed the Buffalo Sabres yet. And so they're hoping this number 1 overall pick can be a foundational piece to do that, to make that pivot to some excellence. It's the 4th time they've had the number 1 overall pick. Good one in Gilbert Perreault. 1970, Pierre Turgeon was very productive. Then they flipped him for Pat LaFontaine. And then, of course, Rasmus Dahlin in 2018. And he's a defenseman, and we expect another defenseman to join him, Sam Constantino, as Owen Power, the best available player on the board.
Yeah, I don't think that there is any other way in which the Buffalo Sabres can go here. And again, that story really started at the Chicago Steel. It transitioned without a problem to get the University of Michigan, and then it transitioned to Canada at the Worlds. And at every turn, he was playing high leverage minutes, playing a lot of minutes, and doing what he does best, just playing that calm, confident game, moving pucks, using that great skating ability, not only offensively, but in the defensive zone as well. So you really have to like what this guy brings to the table. And if you think that this franchise can get back on track, Rasmus Dahlin, I think he's got a lot more to show. I think he needs to be surrounded by better people. But boy, this would be quite a pairing, or at least 2 anchors of your top 2 pairings down the road.
No doubt. No doubt. I mean, listen, you look at that size, you look at the strength, the complete package, and you saw his family there, right? It takes a village. Commissioner Bettman was just talking about it. Family and friends gathered at the home there in Mississauga, in the western part of Toronto. And, hey, that's a short drive. We know that well. It's only an hour and a half to Buffalo. And if you're a Sabres fan right now, the wings are a little tastier up at Lenova Pizza and Wings in Buffalo as you're watching this. Gortz, take it away.
Well, you've convinced me. We've heard enough about him. Yeah. I think it's let's take the pick, right? I would tell our scouts right now, let's go to the podium here with this one.
I love it. He's jammed up. I love it.
Commissioner Gary Bettman, the Buffalo Sabres. Who are they taking?
From the KeyBank Center in Buffalo, surrounded by a fair number of fans, Kevin Adams, the Sabres GM, will make the first pick.
On behalf of the Buffalo Sabres and all of our great fans, we are proud to select from the University of Michigan, Owen Power.
Not a surprise, 6'6" tall. You can see the height right there. Great head of hair. Says he's going back to Michigan to play for the Wolverines. Jeff Gordon, if you drafted a #1 overall, would you want him in your organization now or to go back to college? What would be your opinion?
I think when you take the first pick overall, everything that goes along with it, you'd like to have him on your team right away. I understand the reason that he would go to Michigan. But, I always felt like if I sent Lafreniere back to Rimouski, that maybe they would have sent me there with him.
Not a bad place.
Rimouski is French for Secaucus. Could he be as good as Victor Hedman, Sam? Well, that's a comp we're hearing.
Yeah, there are a lot of comparisons, and I think one of the main reasons why is because you're seeing a tall player who doesn't overexert himself physically, doesn't initiate the physicality, yet uses his body effectively to defend. So when you think about Hedman, he's a really difficult player to play against now, but you don't think of him like Shea Weber, that he's going to run you through the end boards. And I think Owen Power is going to grow into that and develop that part of his game a little bit more, but I don't ever think he's going to be that big banger and crasher. But man, this really can impact the organization. A 6'6" defenseman who skates like that, I mean, if you had to go out and acquire this in the free agent market, it would cost you a fortune, Seth Jones. Or if you had to,
$40 million signing bonus.
Or if you had to trade for it, Seth Jones.
Yeah, $40 million.
It's costing you a lot.
Yeah.
Now you get this guy for free.
Hey, I couldn't agree more. I think here's one thing: we're talking about where Owen Power and how we project him. Let's take it all the way back. You saw what he did growing up. Obviously, you would have had a chance to see him play back home. He then goes to Chicago Steel, which is the unconventional route, but they have a great program. They just won the Clark Cup again. So he goes to Chicago Steel, plays there, lights it up there, goes to University of Michigan. For a freshman, I thought he lit it up too. You are on the college hockey beat. Then he goes to the men's worlds and says, hey, look out, NHL players. I can play here too. And as the tournament went along, ends up being a key piece of the gold. So from a progression standpoint, he might want to go back to Ann Arbor for one more year and hang on the campus. And they've got an amazing team. One of the best college teams ever assembled. But all that being said, he's played so much hockey and excelled at all these levels.
Yeah, Michigan is an absolute wagon. There were no fans. He didn't get the college experience last year. Frozen Four in Boston. Last time Michigan won a natty was in Boston. It could be a lot of fun for him. And then join the Sabres maybe in March or at the end of the year.
Well, the World Juniors, he didn't have the opportunity to go last year. It would have been 51 days gone from Mel Pearson's team. They couldn't afford that. So maybe that opportunity presents itself and, hey, you join at the end of the year. But that progression, there was a little bit of luck involved. Colin Miller got hurt. He got put up in a pairing with Troy Stetcher, and they couldn't take him off that second pairing. He was that good. By the end of it, he's playing all the high leverage minutes. Every important situation for Gerard Gallant there to go 0-3 and then win a gold with that guy as a key piece. That says a lot.
Let's talk Seattle Kraken. We just had the expansion draft Wednesday night. Weeksy was there out there in Seattle chucking and catching fish. Still stinks. And there they are.
Alone tonight for you.
Ron Francis. He has plenty of options. From here, the draft, again, so many boards are so varied for team to team. This next 2 to 10, it really could go at a myriad of ways. But the name we keep hearing, Sam, as we look at the forward lines as they presently are constructed after the expansion draft, things could still change. But when you look at someone like a teammate of Owen Power, Matty Beniers, a lot of times an employer will hire somebody who reminds them of themselves. And Matty Beniers has a lot of Ron Francis in his game and every situation player.
Well, it was great when Weeksy came back and he said, I was talking to everybody there. He's the mayor here. He's the mayor everywhere. And he said, we want to create an identity. And how do you do that? You take a player like Matty Beniers, who is the representative of what a blue-collar town would be like. A guy who works both ends of the ice. A guy who's tall, good-looking dude. He has identity. He's extremely responsible. So this is the type of guy you're looking for.
The pick is in.
From the Space Needle in Seattle, General Manager of the Seattle Kraken, Ron Francis, will make the #2 selection.
On behalf of Mr. David Bonderman and our entire ownership group, I'd like to thank the Commissioner, and the 31 member clubs for welcoming the Seattle Kraken into the National Hockey League. And on behalf of our passionate fans, I'm proud to make a historical first ever amateur draft selection for our team by choosing from the University of Michigan, Matthew Beniers.
There it is. Matty Beniers, big time, complete center, PK, matchup center guy. Could be a power play guy as well. And so the guy who many feel has a bit of Ron Francis in him, Kevin Weeks, is selected by Ron Francis.
Yeah, exactly. My former teammate Ron Francis, and had a chance to speak to him briefly, but with some of the other members of their brain trust there as well, and their senior executive leadership, and some of the coaching staff, this team is doing everything so well off the ice so far. I was blown away by my time out there, and I had the feeling from speaking to them, if Beniers was still there, they were going to take him for all the reasons you said. Fellas, look, let's think about it this way, all right? If you look at the mold that he plays in a similar style, Jonathan Toews, he wins at everything. 3 Stanley Cups, Olympic gold, World Junior, huge in that World Junior. Same thing for Patrice Bergeron. That's where they met, in that World Junior. Been to 3 cups, won 1 for the Bees. Gortz, I know somebody like you would be able to sleep very easy with a center iceman like that.
Yeah, Toews, Bergeron, give me 50% of that and we'll take it, right? I think Ronnie Francis would say that. This he's a terrific player. He plays the whole sheet. It's well documented. This is a great selection, I think, for Seattle to start this off. The only thing that surprised me a little bit is that Weeks he didn't make the pick.
Exactly. You didn't record that the other night while you were there?
No, that wasn't me. Listen.
Those pirated videos on Twitter.
I'll give you the Shaggy. Wasn't me.
Emily Kaplan will be with us all night long. She is in Columbus giving us Blue Jacket perspective. They got 3-1, but she's also there covering the NHL throughout. Emily.
Yeah, Ron Francis just called him Matthew, but he says that his name is Matty. He's not a Matt or a Matthew. That's just not his personality. His mom was actually a Broadway actress, and he once was a theater kid himself, now a bit more of an academic. He was committed to go to Harvard. Season was canceled, went to Michigan instead, studied pre-med and is interested in dermatology, loves the show Dr. Pimple Poppers. And Matty's a kid that struggles to put on weight. When he came back from Worlds, he weighed in at 168 pounds. So this summer, he really focused on gaining weight. It was like a full-time job. 5 to 6 meals a day, 5 to 6,000 calories a day. He can always go to his favorite restaurant, Chipotle. And guys, he's fully aware, walk is extra. Back to you guys.
Matty Ice is a Seattle Kraken. Was set to go to Harvard, a very high-achieving family.
Yes.
Mom went to Cornell. Ends up at Michigan. What are the Kraken fans who are watching tonight? Great ratings the other night. Kraken fans out there for the expansion draft. What are they getting, Matty Beniers?
They get the entire package. Mm-hmm. They get a kid who's got great character. They get a kid who can play, as you mentioned, the full sheet of the ice. But there are a couple of key moments that I was looking for throughout the course of the year. The first was at the World Juniors. And here's a guy who at the World Juniors, looking defensively responsible right here. Yeah, now I'll take the puck and go, anticipate the play, take it one-on-one into the zone. But at the World Juniors, he was used in high-leverage situations once again, taking key draws down the stretch. It doesn't typically happen for an underage player at that tournament, especially with the success that the U.S. had in winning that tournament. And then you think about, all right, he's a late birthday guy. The World say, why don't you come with us? And he didn't quite really catch pace there. Played a couple minutes here and there, but the simple fact that they brought him tells me everything that they think about this young man. Unfortunately, he ended up getting hurt. But he can do a lot of different things. He can play both sides of the puck. He can score with some skill and bring that identity for a brand new franchise.
And we'll see if he returns to Michigan or decides to turn pro with the Kraken. Now it gets interesting. We thought it would be Power and Beniers 1-2. Now we're not really sure. A great night for Owen Power and Matty Beniers, but the Anaheim Ducks are on the clock. What will they do? Find out next. Anaheim Ducks on the clock. Their viewing party in Southern California at the Honda Center as they look to reload this franchise. It's a really inept offensive season last year for Anaheim, and they'll look to perhaps add some offense to this year's roster. When you finish this low, Kevin Weeks, you need a lot. What do the Ducks need?
I'd say Power. They need goals. We know they need goals. There's no question about it. They need a lot more offense. It was inept. We know that they struggled offensively. At even strength, and of course on the power play as well. And you'd also need some playmakers that can complement Zegras. I love Zegras. I love Drysdale from last year's draft. I thought was awesome. But for me, a Mason McTavish type player would be a great fit for them.
All right, well, the pick is in. Commissioner Gary Bettman, it's all yours.
From the Honda Center, with fans on the arena floor, the Anaheim Ducks selection, number 3, will be made by Executive Vice President and General Manager Bob Murray. Bob, you're up.
The Anaheim Ducks are proud with the 3rd pick of the 2021 draft. Happy and excited to draft from the Peterborough Pete's hockey team, Mason McTavish.
All right. No relation to Craig. I'm sure many of you are asking that the first question out of your mouths. But, boy, it's tough to pass up on a big, thick center. This guy really came out of nowhere. He shot up the draft board, Sam.
He sure did. And I think about a couple of recent Bob Murray picks. And I think about Max Jones, plays with some belligerence. I think about Max Comtois, who has a little bit of that with goal-scoring ability. And I think Mason McTavish is very much along those lines. When you go back to looking at his rookie year, 16 years old, Rob Wilson says, hey, son, you're not going to play center where you played minor hockey. You're going to the wing. And what did he do? He scored 29 goals there as a 16-year-old. Really difficult. Manipulating the blade angle in close. He can shoot from distance as well. And then he went over to Switzerland because the OHL didn't play. And he asserted himself against men and said, hey, I can do this. And he felt like he was chomping at the bit to get back to the under-18s to say, oh, I'm going to destroy the competition here. Dave Barr puts him at center ice, his natural position. He wins 60% of his draws. He continues to score. He goes to the net. He's making plays. He's showing off leadership. This guy is a warrior, and no question that Bob Murray's sitting there saying, I got another Max Comtois here, but maybe additional to what Max has already brought to the table as he had that turnaround year.
Power forward.
Yeah, pretty good compliment to Zegras, too. If they get Zegras to the middle and McTavish, a nice little blend of some finesse and some power down the middle. A pretty good selection here.
I love that. I love your point about that duo, having that little combination, those guys running little short plays off the cycle in the offensive zone. And listen, as the games went along, he got better and better. And I love the power that he showed. People don't recognize he was born in Switzerland, by the way, so people don't recognize that. That's, to your point, how he was able to go over and play in the Swiss second division and played very well. He asserted himself, but he can beat goalies. I saw a lot of tape on him, beating goalies from distance, slinging that wrister from behind him. He has an NHL shot and body right now. I love his game.
He's ripped. He's absolutely ripped, this guy. His brother's an MMA fighter. I think he's got a fight in Montreal tomorrow night, so he's probably been working out with his brother. And you might be fooled. You know, he's got the round hair going and the curls. Don't be fooled. This guy's ripped, and he's a power forward extraordinaire.
All right, New Jersey Devils. Speak of the Devils, they are on the clock now, and now the intrigue starts. They have a Hughes brother. They have Jack, who they took first overall. Will brother Luke join him? Luke is a defenseman. He's now the tallest of the three, had a very late growth spurt recently. So this real skilled defenseman, wonderful skater, now also adds a little bit of a reach in his game, which can certainly add any defender's plus rating there.
Yeah, and I like it because he's so young. So that means the ceiling is higher for this player. And I love what he said to us in the interviews. He was talking about, hey, you guys are talking about Owen Power and this and that. What about me? What about me a year older? I love the confidence, the swagger he brings to the table. You watch him play. He plays with some of that, and you need that to be successful in the NHL.
Yeah, he's got a little Brady Tkachuk goofiness to him, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, I like that, too. I'm with you. I could deal with that because those guys, they believe in themselves. And I have to say this. What they've been able to do at the NDTP is create players. And they've done an outstanding job of helping develop a lot of these young men become young men, but also help them facilitate their development on the ice. It's been a factory right now. And I really think of the Hughes brothers, not only is he the tallest, I might say that he's probably the most balanced in terms of his game. He's not all offense, Gortz. He likes to defend as well.
And he's gotten better every year. I know he got hurt this year, but all indications were from last year to this year is huge strides. And his overall game, his thinking process, playing physical, everything he can do, in addition to being, from the Hughes family. So.
And do you take the best player here, Jeff, as we look at the prospects from the New Jersey Devils, or do you complement what you already have? It's got to be a tough decision, I imagine, because you want to take the best guy. You need great players.
Yeah. Sometimes this high, you get a little bit, it can be tantalizing to go for something, a need. But, we always say, I think here, best player, who's going to be the best in 5 years. That's going to serve you the best.
Devils missed the playoffs the last 3 seasons, 8 of the last 9. And currently these are the best available players, and we really could hear any name announced right now, couldn't we, Sam?
Yeah, we kind of figured that after the second pick that things would get a little wild. I'm pretty confident that the top 10 players will remain the top 10 players. But the order, we're already seeing it shaken up here a little bit with McTavish going third. What a rise to prominence for that young man.
And Michigan had the first 2 players taken in this draft with Power and Beniers. Hughes on his way to Michigan, so they could have 3 out of 4 as the Devils get set to make their pick as the time winds down. Any preference for you, Weeksy, as you look at the prospects available, wingers and defensemen?
It's hard not to pass up Luke Hughes for sure, for so many different reasons. I can also make a case for Brandt Clark, though. If you're looking for an offensive defenseman out of Barrie, I know the skating isn't necessarily the most fluid in terms of his stride, but he's instant offense. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them either go Luke Hughes or Brandt Clark here. What about you, Gortz?
Well, there's a lot of different options, right? There's different kind of defensemen. Edvinsson, the Swede, is pretty talented, too. Be a good pick. It's probably maybe a little too high for the goalie talk, but there is a little, there's some, Gunther's pretty good. There's some options here.
Yeah, William Eklund as well could play with Jack Hughes. True. He's a sick winger. Commissioner Gary Bettman will introduce the Devils.
From the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, obviously at a viewing party, the Executive Vice President and General Manager, Tom Fitzgerald, will make the 4th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft. Tom, the floor is yours.
It's great to see everybody here finally live at the Prudential Center. I want to thank all our staff behind me for all their tireless work they've put in this last 2 years. With the 4th overall pick, the New Jersey Devils are proud to pick from the USA Development Program, Luke Hughes.
There it is. Remember, he sustained that lacerated tendon in his foot in March. He got cut by a skate. He missed the 2021 U18s on his way to Michigan to join that star-studded cast. So he'll have plenty of insulation around him in terms of talent and obviously driven personalities to work on his game and be on a team that's really going to be thinking about a championship. And, yeah, they are pumped, aren't they, to have 2 brothers on the same team. That saves a lot of airline miles, I imagine, Jeffrey.
What an opportunity to play with his brother, too. To walk into the NHL and some bragging rights over one brother and maybe not over the other, right?
Yeah.
I think the only downside to this deal is there's no more Hughes brothers, right?
And factory.
Yeah, but no, this is a special time, obviously, for the Hughes family, and it's a pretty high-end caliber player to add with his brother.
I love to see the joy.
Jack from his so pumped. Jack is so pumped.
So jacked.
There's so many families that have these jealousies and these fights, and you can see the pure love. They're so happy for their brother. Man, that's the best.
That's powerful stuff right there. Powerful stuff.
I go back to watching him at Little Caesars playing for Brian Smolinski there in the U16s, and you could tell that he was a little bit deer on skates at that point, and his game has just grown by leaps and bounds. Jeff, you talked about that trajectory, and you think that with him being one of the younger players of the elite in this draft class, that trajectory is going to continue on that 45-degree angle. So the ceiling is massive for this guy. You know, what's interesting about him is the fact that he played a large portion of the season on his offside.
Yeah.
So now, when he transitions to the National Hockey League, that's not going to be a surprise for him. Right-handed defenseman, always difficult to come by. This left shot can play the right side as well. That's that added value for the player. But here's some of the things that he does similar to what his brothers do. Extreme amount of confidence with the puck to do anything at any time. There's Quinn Hughes. Oh, yeah, I'm the last guy. Little dipsy do, no problem. I'll take it into the zone. I'm not worried about being backed up. I'm confident with the puck. All right, well, Luke Hughes, I'm going to do a little bit more of the same thing. No problem. Get it down to the middle of the ice. Hey, Jack Hughes, this looks familiar. All right, I'm going to cut it back towards the middle of the ice. Yep, dish it off. That's a snipe in the back of the net for the New Jersey Devils. So the foundation for all the Hughes brothers is based on that great skating ability, their edge work, their ability to turn on a dime. That mobility is simply fantastic. It works well in today's transitional game. The other part is that confidence with the puck, the ability to do anything with the puck at any time. They've all competed against one another, so it's always going against that high level of competition within the family. The youngest guy, Weeksy,
Exactly.
always has to fight for the toughest
Always,
ball.
totally. No question about it. Listen, I love the fact that he's a two-way defenseman. He's gifted enough offensively to make plays and generate offense. He can beat a forecheck himself. He can activate in the offensive zone like a forward. But defensively, he also wants to match up. he also wants to defend. He wants to kill penalties. He wants to do these things and be more of an overall defenseman. But what a time for their family. I remember Gortz being just up the road at the Prudential Center when we unveiled his brother as the 1 overall pick. And this is awesome stuff for them.
Yeah, incredible. The thing about the Hughes family, the kids, is they all look 15. So it tells me that there's room for growth. They're so good and so talented, but lots of room for growth. As a general manager, you don't want a guy with a full beard showing up at your table. So.
And I'm, like I said, I'm pumped. He's playing college hockey this year at Michigan, Frozen Four in Boston. Quinn brought Michigan to the Frozen Four. Didn't quite get the job done. And maybe his brother Luke can help bring them to that championship they've been looking for now for a while. But now one of the big stories after the Michigan men, who now go 3 of the first 4, is the Columbus Blue Jackets. We know they have 3 picks after the big Seth Jones trade today. They picked 5th. This is the slot they had. They also picked 12th. That's Chicago's slot. That's the pick they got in the Seth Jones trade. They switched then that 32nd pick. Chicago now has the 32nd pick. Columbus also picks 25th. So, Jeff, this is interesting. You got 3 picks in the first round. Do you take the guy you want the most or the best player?
I think you take the guy that's going to be the best again.
Knowing you have 12 right behind you, do you forecast selections, or is that dangerous?
I think that's a little dangerous. That's a little tough of a spread. Here, this high of a pick, I think you're going to take the guy that's going to be the best over time. They have a number of picks. Let's reset it. If we're the Columbus Blue Jackets, let's get the best player here, and let's go back to work and see what's next at our next pick.
Yeah, and listen, traditionally they've struggled to score. Right? They've had some outstanding defense. Of course, Seth Jones ended up departing now. We'll see where this takes us, Bucci.
Well, Simon Evanson, a big defenseman, could replace Seth Jones. They could take that right now. Gary Bettman, introduce Columbus, please.
With the 5th pick, the Columbus Blue Jackets from Nationwide Arena will present John Davidson, the president of hockey operations. JD, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. On behalf of our ownership group, led by John McConnell, our staff, coaches, and players, I want to thank all the great fans here tonight at Nationwide Arena. Thank you. 5th line, it's great to see you again. To make our first pick in the 2021 National Hockey League Draft, I would like to introduce a great and longtime fan of the Blue Jackets, an Ohio guy, a former captain of the Ohio State Buckeyes, and one of the best broadcasters in the business, ESPN's own Kirk Street.
JD, how are you, man? I wish I could be there. I know how the 5th line can get fired up, and some great memories in that arena. And I get back as often as I can, and looking to get back even more this year coming up. But I know it's great to have you back, part of the organization, helping us rebuild and look forward to trying to get back to the postseason. Exciting time. This young man's name I'm about to read is about to play for the most passionate and loyal fan base, I think, in the NHL. So with the 5th pick in the 2021 NHL Draft, the Columbus Blue Jackets select center Kent Johnson, University.
Wow. This guy is sick. He had some Sports Center top 10 highlights last year. He's got an elite brain. Those highlights reminded me of Patrick Kane of a couple times, and he's 6'1", real slight, not ready yet. He's got to get in the weight room, do some squats and lunges and deadlifts. But, man, this guy can be dirty at times, Sam.
Of all the people in this draft class, he is within the top 3 most dynamic players. And it goes back to his BCHL year with the Trail Smoke Eaters, put up 101 points, and he was the guy who was named the top forward. Look at some of the stuff this guy's thinking about. No problem, I'll go behind the net. Little lacrosse goal. Hey, don't worry about it. Yeah, in tight, I can do that too. But hey, there's not an opening. I'm just going to spin around here, go to the backhand, lift it upstairs. Oh my gosh, the poise with all these people all over. And this goal, I absolutely love. Against Minnesota. Backhand, right from the goal line. Hello. My goodness. In his under 15 year, this guy was 4'11". There was a couple of rides at the amusement park.
4'11"?
He couldn't even get on the rides at the amusement park. But you know what? He's 6'1" now, skinny. His eyes are single file. But you know what? Like you said, he's going to go to the weight room, eat a little pasta. He'll be ready to rock and roll. Almost a point per game for Mel Pearson this year at the University of Michigan, and they're killing it right now, the Maize and Blue.
Chicken parm 5 nights a week.
Exactly.
First time ever, 3 of the top 4 picks
historic
playing college hockey.
Historic. +16 rating, too. So let's not undervalue the fact that he was a plus player with all the offensive gifts that he has. But perhaps when he was playing in the BCJ back up in BC for the Trail Smoke Eaters, you just showed one of them. He scored 2 Michigan goals, maybe foreshadowing a little bit of Mike Legg, what we saw from Mike Legg at Michigan, and the fact that he's going to go there. But this guy's instant offense, my sweat towel, we got the temperature controlled in here. It's now a rally towel.
Little James Brown.
It's a rally, yeah, totally. It's a rally towel because I thought some people may have been a little bit traditional, Gortz. You could take this over. We don't know the flash, the skill. We don't know. I think this guy is both the steak and the sizzle for me.
Well, high-end skill. We all see that. That has to be tantalizing as you're sitting there with that pick. And he could be the best player of all. We've seen some of the things he can do. It's pretty magical. Interesting to have a Ohio State guy announce the Michigan guy.
Oh, he had to. He had to.
I didn't miss that.
Oh, Gortz. Way to go. Well, speaking of Michigan,
yeah,
Detroit, Michigan, the Red Wings are on the clock. They love Stevie Y. He can do no wrong. He's got lots of rope in this rebuilding process, but we're getting impatient. What will the Red Wings do in this 6th selection? Find out next. What's it like to be the first overall pick in the National Hockey League draft? Owen Power knows, because it just happened to him tonight in Mississauga, Ontario, as he celebrates with his family and friends and advisors. Jackie Redmond caught up with the first pick of the draft.
Owen, congratulations. A dream realized, something I'm sure that you have imagined a million times over in your lifetime. You've got your whole family there. How would you describe this moment to your younger self?
I think it's pretty special. I think it's something that I dreamed about my whole life, and I don't know if my younger self would have really believed it. So,
well, believe it, it's real, and you are officially a member of the Buffalo Sabres. You and I have talked about this before. You have a decision ahead of you to play for the Sabres this coming season or to go back to school. You've said before you're leaning towards school. How do you feel in this moment about that choice?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not thinking about it too much right now. Just try and enjoy the night. So I think that's something I'll worry about later.
Well, you got a lot of people there to celebrate with you, so I'm sure it'll be quite a party. The Sabres fan base is one of the most passionate in hockey. A message for them before you go, because they are excited to see you eventually don their sweater.
Yeah, I'm just super excited to be a part of the franchise and ready to get going.
All right, congratulations. Enjoy the night.
Yeah, thank you.
Hear the emotion in his voice. First-time USHL alumnus have gone 1-2 in the NHL draft. So now the Red Wings are on the clock at Little Caesars Arena. That's where they are convening for their draft room. As Steve Yzerman, what does he do? Where does he go? Commissioner Gary Bettman.
Joining Steve Yzerman, Executive Vice President and General Manager of the Detroit Red Wings, to make the number 6 pick is 10-year-old Harold Washington Jr. Harold represents the thousands of children in the city of Detroit who are experiencing the joys of learning hockey through the Red Wings Learn, Play, Score program. Harold, take it away.
Harold? With the 6th pick in the 2021 NHL Draft, the Detroit Red Wings are proud to select
from Frölunda, Sweden, defenseman Simon Edvinsson.
Go Red Wings!
Way to go, Harold. Way to go, Stevie Y. So, boy, a big, strong, dynamic Swedish defenseman. Stevie Y probably had some good memories with a Swedish defenseman teammate.
Who would that be? Nick Lidstrom, perhaps? Hall of Famer, absolute stud? Wow. So when it comes to Simon Edvinsson, I mean, you're talking about the guy who's got size, he's got reach. Some are worried about the offensive upside he's going to bring to the table, but you have to kind of reel it back a little bit and say, if you're going to get a top 2 pairing guy who's going to eat 23 minutes a night, we'll worry about the offensive upside later. Let him just take care of business in his own end. He plays with a little bite, and I like a lot of different things this guy does defensively. Here he is off the circle in front of the net. All right, watch this little play here. Little dipsy doodle, no problem. And you know what? I'm going to take a hit to make this play so we get an easy exit out of the zone. No problem. Great awareness there. It leads to a scoring chance all the way in transition, all because of a great play and a little dipsy doodle in his own zone. Here, he comes out to challenge the shooter. It's a block shot. finds where the puck is. Now he gets back into the play, and he's wandering around kind of looking for his man, scoping things out. They're able to get the exit out of the zone there just momentarily before he's able to break up that play with that good long reach. But Edmondson also likes to anticipate the play. Here's a rink-wide pass. Not on my watch, thank you very much. I'll step up and neutral ice, and I will create a scoring chance, not just for my teammate, but get the rebound for myself. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do a little bit more of that. The anticipation of trying to make a good play once again. I'll go behind the net, little shimmy shake. There it is. One pass, exit out of the zone. So there are a lot of little subtleties in his game, including his ability to anticipate the play defensively and play some defense up ice. Saves you going back that extra 100 feet to go back and have to do it in your own end.
30th straight year, 30th. The Red Wings have picked a Swede. So this is a country they're very comfortable with. They've been very successful with Swedes, and they pick another one here who looks like he could be a real gem. Emily Kaplan with more from Columbus. Emily.
Yeah, so his dad, Toby, is a police detective, and his mom, Osa, is a personal trainer. They're both very tall, and so is their son, Simon, who is 6'4". And those around him know that being that tall gives you a propensity for back issues later in life. But Osa actually uses a technique called power plates. It's this vibrating platform that helps with flexibility and circulation. And Osa has been training Simon in that, and they think it's really helping. I actually talked to a scout in Sweden about Simon, and they said he's a big guy that can do the things that small guys can do when it comes to puck handling and finding solutions down low. And the scout told me when you have a player with that size that can do those things, it's very rare. So Stevie Y's got to be happy. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Emily. Red Wings, the worst record over the last 5 seasons. He probably won't play this year, so we'll see what the season will look like this year on the ice for the Red Wings. Matty Beniers, the second pick overall in this draft. Yeah, South Shore in the house. Let's go, Hingham. He sat down to talk with Jackie Redmond. His response to being picked second.
Matt, congratulations. Officially a member of the Seattle Kraken. I just talked to Ron Francis. You made quite an impression on that group of individuals. What do you remember about your interview process with them?
Yeah, they were probably one of my favorite teams that I interviewed with. Ron was great. Jerry Fortin, just being in interviews with those guys, I felt extremely comfortable. They were awesome. It felt like a real conversation. I thought we had a pretty good connection. All the times we talked were great. So I was just so excited that they picked me, and I'm going to be Seattle Kraken.
Well, Ron said you could probably play for that team tomorrow if you wanted to. You've got some decisions. Owen Power, your teammate at school, goes first. Kent's expected to go in the top 10. How special was it to share this experience with them, and how much did you guys talk leading up to tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we actually talked a good amount today, just FaceTiming and stuff. I think it's so unbelievable watching them get drafted. I think it was just as happy as it was for Owen and me and Luke, all of us. It's so cool. Just watching now, I just seeing Kent just got picked. So cool, so happy for him. That's awesome. I'm kind of at a loss of words right now and just so excited for my teammates and kind of what's next.
Well, you can tell the bond is genuine and special. I'm sure that group chat's going to be fire tonight. Enjoy the celebration, and congratulations again on becoming a member of the Seattle Kraken.
Thank you so much.
Very nice house.
Yes.
See that window?
Yes.
Never had a window that
was
nice.
Sweet. That's sweet.
Boston guy.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. There you go.
A lot of iron down there.
Yeah.
Sharks are on the clock. Sharks are an interesting franchise. A couple years ago, they're in the Cup Finals, and now suddenly they've fallen off the face of the earth. They've missed the playoffs for 2 straight years now. What's up with the Sharks, Weeksy?
Well, I mean, they seem to be victims of their success and their consistency that they showed for 17 years.
Yeah.
They were amazing at this point. Identity, to me, it really went wrong and really south with not re-signing Joe Pavelski. He really was one of the catalysts there, and, of course, one of their great leaders that they had with that core. But goal scoring, you can see they need offensive pop. They need somebody as a young player that can come in and be dynamic, make plays. Perhaps that's a Dylan Guenther here. They also need a young goalie, too. They had that stalwart for years in Nabokov. Marty Jones during his first few years there was outstanding, carried them to the Cup. But those are 2 areas of need for me with them.
7th pick overall. They need to make good on it right now, right? So there's some players here, like we talked about, some defensemen, maybe a goalie. They have needs. They did have a great run for a long time, and it would be nice tonight to start the reboot a little bit here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at some point, those good runs come to an end. It's the difficulty you have in transitioning and when to make that move to transition to rebuilding. And that can be difficult at times. San Jose a little bit behind the times in that regard.
Gunther, would you take him here?
Yeah, I love him. Goal scorer. You need goals to win.
Let's find out. Gary Bettman.
The number 7 pick in the 2021 NHL Draft will be made by the San Jose Sharks. From the SAP Center is Doug Wilson Jr., Director of Scouting. Doug, the floor is yours.
The San Jose Sharks are proud to select from Djurgården, Sweden, William Eklund.
There you go. Was that booyah in Swedish? I'm not sure what he said. It did sound.
I read that way.
Yeah. Well, he's a slippery winger, tons of skill, 5'10", but really competes down low, Sam. This is a guy you just expect is going to be at least good in the NHL.
From the start of the year to the end of the year, he's been the most improved player in Europe. And of all these great Swedish players, they bounced between leagues, the under-20, the Allsvenskan. This guy remained the entire season in the SHL. And that's saying something when you've had shutdowns at various levels and different players are coming back. So I like Eklund because he, again, is like Matty Beniers. He plays the entire rink. He's really responsible guy, yet he's got dynamic ability and the skills. You think about a point production for this guy, 23 points in 40 games. That ranks 5th all-time amongst first-year draft eligibles in Sweden. Who is he in bed with there? Daniel and Henrik Sedin, Nicholas Backstrom. You're talking about some monster names. This guy's ranked 5th in that great country of Sweden with all the great players they produced. That should be somewhat predictive of what he can do for the San Jose Sharks in the future.
Of course, Edmondson just turned 18 4 months ago. He turns 19 in October. And how much does age make a difference when you draft, Jeff? Is there a real young guy you got to kind of predict upside sometimes?
I think so. Sometimes what we do is when they're late, in this case, 0-2,
right,
we might kind of look back to the draft and see where they would have gone against 0-2s and see if it works out the same way as it did this time. I've seen this guy on tape. He's pretty special. He's got a lot of skill, a lot of poise in the power play. I see a little Marty St. Louis in him on the power play, just how he commands and tells people where to go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, Emily Kaplan with more from Columbus.
All right, are you guys ready to feel old? We are about to cover our first player in the league whose dad is a YouTube star. Christian Fimpen Eklund has a popular video series in Sweden where he interviews Swedish hockey players. Christian told me that his son William was a little skeptical about it at first. When so many stars wanted to do it, he came aboard and actually appeared in 2 episodes himself. Now, William is more hockey obsessed. He's not an influencer. He's been known to knock on doors in the neighborhood looking for people to play street hockey with. And when he was cut from a U17 team, here's a great story. He was really angry, and Christian Eklund woke up in the middle of the night, and he thought there was a burglar. No, he goes down to the garage, and it was William Eklund just shooting pucks by himself. Never mentioned it again, just went to work. That's the kind of work ethic the Sharks are about to get. Gucci?
Great stuff, Emily. As the Sharks make their selection, just want to clarify one thing. If you see on the bottom line that Arizona forfeited their pick, that was a combine testing violation. You might have seen that scroll by a few times. We should probably let you know what it was for. Arizona did recoup a first-round pick, though, in a trade today. But that was the reason why they lost that first-round pick. It was a combine testing violation. Now, on to the LA Kings. Interesting organization here. Of course, a great decade, the last decade, as they raised a couple of cups. Now they're in the rebuilding mode. They got lots of prospects. What will they add to it, Commissioner Gary Bettman?
From the Toyota Sports Performance Center, amateur scout Chris Burns will make the 8th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft for the Los Angeles Kings. Chris, you're up.
With the 8th pick in the 2021 NHL Draft, the LA Kings are proud to select from the Barrie Colts of the OHL, Brant Clark.
That's our 4th D-man in 8 selections. Look at Brant. He cannot believe it. We kind of had him slotted here, Sam. You thought this was the organization for this right-handed shooting defenseman.
If you look at Chris Byrne, the gentleman who just made the pick, he lives in the Ottawa area, and so too do the Clark. So he'd be more familiar with Clark than maybe anyone and have that intimate knowledge about this particular player. So he goes to the Barrie Colts. They're a young team. He can kind of run and gun and do his thing. Very good at it. It goes back to the year before that, under 16 with the Don Mills Flyers. Rock star team. We're going to hear more about that group. Shane Wright next year. Francesco Arcuri. You're looking at Brennan Othman, who will soon be picked. That team was a rock star team. Then he progresses to Barrie, has a really good year there. The OHL doesn't start, so he takes off to Slovakia. Him and his brother get a deal to go there together. This is unbelievable. And so they play there, and this guy's getting chirped. Who's this young punk coming over here playing in our men's league? What are you talking about? They're all over him. I talked to his teammate Slater Doggett. He says, guys, you have no idea how difficult it was for the guy on the ice. But you know what? He repelled the physical play. He went out and he beat him on the power play. And there are some things in his game that are really subtle. It's just a little bit of a subtle movement here at the line. What do you have to do? The biggest thing to be able to do here is just get the puck through. And so if you're making passes, yeah, you want to set up somebody else there for them to be able to do it. But I like this little shoulder turn. No, that gets the defender to bite. It doesn't have to be a hard shot. It just has to get through the net. It creates all kinds of havoc. A couple of shots later, it results in a goal. But he does that extremely well. He has the ability to get pucks through the lane. He's a little bit of a knock-kneed skater, so that concerned some people. The interview process probably didn't go as well for Brandt as you would have liked. He showed some immaturity a little bit at the under-18s, but at the end of the day, to find this type of defenseman who has the poise, the patience with the puck, to delay on defenders, to wait for open ice, that is something really special. He has elite puck sense ability, and that's why the LA Kings are looking at this guy to run their power play down the road.
Exactly, and think of the Kings, right? Think of the succession. They had the great Rob Blake, who's their general manager, who was an awesome player. We all know that as a defenseman. Okay, then they draft a guy by the name of Drew Doughty out of the OHL. That went pretty well out of Guelph. All right, no big deal. Then they got Jake Muzzin, who was very serviceable for them too as a defenseman. And now you go back to the OHL once again in this case. This will be the trifecta in Brandt Clarke. But I do love the fact that he played against men. When I watch him on tape, to me he looks very similar to a hybrid between a Mike Green and/or an Erik Karlsson type. Might not have the wheels of Erik Karlsson at his height, but the ability to see the game and make plays. Gortz, I always go by when we talk to different people in the rooms, who's saying what. I talked to a fellow OHLer that told me, Weeksy, this guy's impossible to hit. We can't hit him and we can't contain him.
Yeah, a good get for LA, by the way. With all the forwards they have, a defenseman here with skill makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it was a perfect fit for that organization who was trying to get back on top. Well, what a night so far. 8 down, all 8 of them just filled with different emotions. Family love for the Hughes. The brothers will play together. Relief, excitement. Kent Johnson maybe goes higher than he thought. In Sweden, they're yelling booyah. Arizona is on the clock with a pick they got from Vancouver today when we return. Welcome back to the 2021 NHL Draft. Hello, Sportsnet viewers. Hello, ESPN2 viewers. 8 down. Arizona, who didn't have a pick when the day started. Remember, they forfeited their 11th overall pick for combine testing violations. Make a big deal with Vancouver today, taking on salary, and they acquired the 9th pick from Vancouver. Commissioner Gary Bettman.
From the Gila River Arena in Glendale, Arizona, Director of Amateur Scouting Daryl Plandowski will make the 9th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft for the Arizona Coyotes. Daryl, you're up.
The Arizona Coyotes are proud to select from the Edmonton Oil Kings, Dylan Guenther.
Good one to get at number 9. Big, strong kid, and what do you like about Dylan Guenther, Sam?
I think he slipped a little bit because people were watching the under-18s and only saw him put up 7 points in 7 games, and they said, hey, what's going on here? You just came from the WHL where you had 24 points in 12 games. But the story is a lot different than that. You play for Brad Lauer, who he does with the Edmonton Oil Kings, Dave Barr for Canada at the under-18s, both guys who are coaches that hold you accountable. Both of them love this guy. They think he's going to be a 15-year pro. His ability to score goals is uncanny, and he can do it in a variety of ways. He can do it with speed, drive in the middle of the net. He can do it with his smarts here. Oh, yeah, kick that little soccer. Whoop, whoop. Hook to the backhand. Thank you very much. Upstairs, you got to love those unis with the Edmonton Oil Kings. How about down the wing? That'll work too. Top shelf. Thank you very much. On the blocker side, this guy is a snipe show. What's really cool about him is the fact that he plays in the same barn as the Edmonton Oilers. Hey, Draisaitl, McDavid, Nursey, come on over for a little picture. I'll be joining you soon on that NHL ice. What's really cool about this guy, at the end of the year, he goes into Brad Lauer. Last year, he says, what can I do to be better? How can I be a better goal scorer? Lauer says, we're going to show you some clips here. You need to get a little bit lower, a little bit closer to the net. You need to start utilizing that low ice and then taking it out in front. Use that body, lean into it, and use that great hand skill in tight. We saw a couple of examples of that, so they showed him clips. He did it. The other thing I really like about this guy, he wants to improve. 16 years old, Brad Lauer's not using you on the PK. You got to earn your chops, son. Right. So he went in all the meetings, and he said, you know what, down the road, this is something I'm going to be able to do. So he learned it and learned it and learned it. Dave Barr takes him, puts him on the PK at the under-18s, no problem at all. He was so effective. Every time there was a PK, he was out there, and it was a highly successful penalty kill, largely in part to Dylan Guenther's work. He is a constant learner, this guy, a 15-year pro in the making.
I love big-time goal scorer. I love hearing that. And what I like about him when you see him is he can also make plays. So that means the best players want to play with him, too. He's not just going to shoot every time he touches it. So that would be intriguing. I like what Billy Armstrong's done this week, adding some picks to the organization when they didn't have any. And you can clearly see where they're going. Maybe they're on the clock for next year already with it, but I love what he's doing. I can see the design and see where it's going.
Yeah, they pulled a rabbit out of that here. Give him credit for doing that by being able to recoup a first-round pick and somebody that was projected inside of the top 10 in Dylan Guenther, who was a first overall pick in his Bantam draft in the WHL, I might add. But I like his progression. He's a complete offensive player, 50-50 guy between being goal scorer and disher, to your point, which those guys are hard to come by. But when I watch him, he projects to be inside of a top six forward for me, a little bit of a hybrid of a Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and, of course, a Jordan Eberle, who they both know very well there in Edmonton.
Right now, the MVP is cap space.
Yeah.
Bill Armstrong is the pick monster.
Yeah.
Give me your money. Give me your picks.
Exactly.
Let's go.
That's right.
The Ottawa Senators, as you see, are now on the clock, followed by the Columbus Blue Jackets after their big deal today involving Seth Jones. Let's go back to Seattle as they selected Matty Beniers, second overall. There it is, Beniers, the first Seattle Kraken draft pick at number 2 overall, Seattle. Why Matty Beniers, Jackie?
Ron, congratulations on a very eventful week for you. You take Matty Beniers at number 2. Could he play right now if he wanted to for your roster?
Well, we'll have that discussion with him. It's certainly a big jump from any league to the National Hockey League, but we'll have a conversation with him, see where he feels like. But we certainly feel with the way he skates and how hard he competes each and every night that he certainly would have a possibility of making our lineup in the fall.
What do you think his upside is? Like, how high is the ceiling for a Matty Beniers?
Well, he's such a great character kid. He's a winner. He takes on every challenge straight head on, and with the way he competes each and every day, the way he skates, his skill set, we just felt he was a perfect fit for us to start our franchise out and set the tone of what we want to try and build here and establish our culture. So we think he's got huge upside, and we're working to hopefully help him attain that here in the next few years.
You use that word, culture, and coming into these drafts, we talk so much about the on-ice product, the skill set, what they can do. What kind of a character does Matt Beniers have?
Well, he's got the highest character. Comes from a solid family. Both his parents were engineering students at Cornell University. His dad went on to build a company. His mom, I think, was performing on Broadway. His brother and sister are both doing very successful in their relative fields. And not many times when you're interviewing a kid for the NHL draft did he tell you he's doing pre-med in college. So obviously a very bright kid and someone that's determined. So we're excited to have him part of our team.
Yeah, pre-med, no easy feat. And I hear he has a performance gene, too, so maybe Jerry Bruckheimer will be excited for him. Thanks for this, Ron. I appreciate it, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, Jackie. Take care.
Great stuff, Jackie. So the Ottawa Senators on the clock. They've been retooling, restocking, Jeff, here the last few years. What are they thinking here?
Well, I think the luxury here is they have drafted pretty well. They've stocked the cabinets, and they have the luxury to do what they want. And there's some options here. I think there's a couple goalies we talked about earlier that there's a possible need there. There's some other forwards.
You guys don't like taking goalies, though, in the first round, do you?
Yeah, it would scare me as a general manager. I think people ask, and I just say you better be right.
Better be right. Well, let's see if Ottawa takes a goalie, Commissioner Gary Bettman.
From the Canadian Tire Center, the home of the Ottawa Senators, General Manager Pierre Dorion will be making the 10th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft. Pierre?
Thank you. I would just like to say a hi to all our fans watching on TV. J'aimerais juste saluer tous nos partisans regardant à la télévision. We can't wait to see you again on October 14th. The Ottawa Senators are proud to select. Les Sénateurs d'Ottawa sont fiers de choisir. From the USA National Team Development Program, Tyler Boucher. From the USA National Team Development Program, Tyler Boucher.
That's awesome.
Whoa, how about those apples? Yeah. ESPN's Brian Boucher, his son Tyler, committed to Boston University. They've compared him to Josh Anderson. Any team could use a player who got some skill and got some snarl, eh?
No doubt. What we're finding here is that the general manager, Pierre Dorion, is in exact lockstep with DJ Smith. He will love this guy because he can play hard-nosed, but he can play with skill. And I think about some of the recent acquisitions they've made. Nick Paul, you talk about Amadio, you talk about Josh Brown. These are all guys that fit the mold of what DJ Smith wants to play with. Jake Sanderson's got a little bit of that in him as well. And now you go to this guy. It's a bit of a reach because he was hurt for a good chunk of the year, but he can score goals and he can play that nasty game. DJ Smith is going to love this guy.
This is the type of guy that you want in your group because these types of players are difference makers. When you have a forward that plays a power forward game, that has skill, that's been able to overcome adversity, that's absolutely jacked like this kid is. He's been taking classes at BU, where you guys know very well, since July 5th and working out. He's an absolute beast. I got this video on him earlier. This guy is ready. He's shredded. That's an NHL body. He looks like a Gabe Landeskog or somebody of the like. To my man, Brian Boucher, and his wife and the family, congrats. This is awesome. Goal union, once again, family-wise.
I mean, it's a little bit what we talked about here. They have the luxury of with all the picks they've had to go try something like this, a power forward. Maybe some feel like it's a reach, but this guy, there's a lot of upside here. There's a lot of upside. He can score. He goes to the front of the net. He's hard to play against, and that's the way the league's going. We're all looking for those kind of players. We see the playoffs. It leaves us all wondering, how do we get a guy like that?
Exactly.
How's your one-legged lunge game these days?
Yeah, that's
in progress. Work in progress.
Yeah. I got a bad crook.
He's a winged beaver, Avon Old Farm.
Yes.
Cam Atkinson went there. Great,
awesome.
Great for the family. Tyler
Amazing.
Boucher on his way to BU, another college hockey player taken here in the NHL.
ESPN family too, right?
See, another cast member, free Disney passes. Nice. Let's go.
Be calling you guys.
Columbus Blue Jackets, been a busy day for them. They deal Seth Jones, and they already picked once in this draft, 5th overall, taking Kent Johnson, the slick center from Michigan, announced by a Buckeye, Kirk Herbstreit. Not sure if that's legal in Ohio. But now they're on the clock again. And these are recent picks. What do you do now if you're Columbus?
Well, I hope he doesn't trick me like he did last year. Because we were sitting there when he took Chinnikov, who was a re-entry player from last year. He had an unbelievable year in the KHL. He was awesome in the KHL again this year. But I got to tell you, that was a real surprise for me. I was working with Brian Burke, Mike Feud, and we're sitting there saying, well, who is this dude? Although his dad was a former Rangers draft pick way back when.
Blue Jacket fans, you've had a good TV show so far today. You have another pick, your second one, Commissioner Gary Bettman.
Again from Nationwide Arena in Columbus, with Columbus's second first-round pick in the 2021 NHL Draft, General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen will make the selection. Jarmo?
Good evening, Fifth Line. Thank you for your support through a tough season that we had. We really appreciate it. With the 12th overall selection, the Columbus Blue Jackets are proud to select from Sioux Falls Stampede, the USHL, Cole Sillinger.
There you go. There's Mike Sillinger. Pops. This is a good player, man. He's just born to do it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
You could see him playing with Kent Johnson one day in Columbus. Yeah. Jeff, this just seemed like the right pick at the right time, didn't it?
It does, right? Again, makes sense. They go for a really high-end skill player in Kent Johnson, and they back it up with another center down the middle that's hard to play against, that can score goals, has a laser of a shot. His dad played, 2,000 games, right? And for 24 teams, he's been in the league a long time. So that's a nice pickup here.
In this draft full of uncertainty, you try and look for certain nuggets. And what are those certain nuggets? Sons of NHL players. We just saw that pick with Boucher. Now we're seeing the pick with Sillinger. From the start of this guy's life, he's been around the room hanging out with Rick DiPietro, Nassau Coliseum. Then he goes to play for Willie Desjardins, former NHL coach of the Medicine Hat Tigers, scores 22 goals, transitions, gets an early jump on everybody to go to the USHL because the WHL got off to a late start. Scores almost a goal per game, 24 goals, USHL Rookie of the Year. This guy's a snipe show, and he can play that style of game that when you're looking at the playoffs and it's hard and heavy, he's got the body to do it. He's got the goal-scoring ability to do it and probably do it in your top 6.
Yeah, no question.
Got two brothers who played college hockey at Bemidji State, the Beavers, who made the NCAA tournament this past season. Emily Kaplan in Columbus with more.
Mike Sillinger played for a record 12 NHL teams, including here in Columbus, where Cole was born. But Cole's only memories of his dad are with the Islanders, which was his dad's last stop. Cole Sillinger and his brothers were always running around the Nassau Coliseum locker room, and Cole specifically always gravitated towards Rick DiPietro, so much so that Rick bought little Cole a set of goalie pads. Now, Rick called his buddy Mike Sillinger last week, and the first thing Mike said is, "Good thing you didn't convince him to be a goalie." Instead, Cole is a point producer, and there's two things that his dad, Mike, taught him. You can control two things in life, your mindset and your attitude. Columbus fans, you should be excited. He was born here. Back to you guys.
Great stuff. Lucas and Owen are the brothers who play at Bemidji State. So the Blue Jackets, again, 5th and 12th. They have another pick in this first round coming up, 25th. That's from Toronto in the Foligno trade. So the Blue Jackets will still be paying attention here as they take Cole Sillinger with the 12th pick of this year's NHL draft. Two goalies still on the board, Volstead and Kosa. These are studs. And, they're taking goalies in the first round lately. Spencer Knight in the first round. Nashville taking, what do you think? When are they going to go?
I love that you're winding my watch right
Calgary,
now. Oh, yeah.
Come on, you got a Western Canadian on the board.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Sebastian Kosa just plays
that's
up
your
the road
guy.
from you in Edmonton with the Oil Kings. But okay, here's the thing. See, everybody's turning. Okay, you're getting the Stanley Cup playoffs. Who are you looking at? Oh, we need our tender to bail us out in this one. We need our tender to bail us out. Look at Vasilevsky. We go back to 2012, the last time we saw two goalies go in the first round. Vasilevsky seemed to work out. And obviously Malcolm Subban. Let's see where this goes here, fellas.
All right, it's Calgary, Buffalo, Dallas, Rangers in the hole. We come back at this 2021 NHL Draft. What a day. What a night. The Sillinger family. As Cole is going to Columbus. The C is for Columbus and Cole. And the Boucher family celebrating their son as a first-round NHL draft pick. The first round of the NHL draft. As you see, 11 picks in as the Arizona Coyotes forfeited that 11th selection, but then they got the 9th today and took Dylan Guenther, a good player there at 9th overall. What about Calgary? What about the Flames? Where do they go? We speculating goaltender maybe? Well, let's find out, Commissioner Gary Bettman.
From the Scotiabank Saddle Dome in Calgary, Alberta, Calgary Flames General Manager Brad Treliving will be joined by Ted Button, the Director of Amateur Scouting. Brad, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gary. The Calgary Flames are proud to select with our first pick in the 2021 NHL Draft from the Clark Cup champion Chicago Steel, Matthew Coronado.
There you go. On his way to Harvard University to play for Teddy Donato. He's up there in Livonia, Michigan. 13th overall. Right-handed shot. Got a little sandpaper at his game as well, doesn't he, Sam?
He sure does. He's like a bulldog. He's a dog on a bone. Loose pucks, he's going to get after it because he likes to play with it. And why wouldn't you? When you score 48 goals to lead the USHL and no one is within 16.
Yeah.
16 goals behind is the next guy. So Coronado, like many goal scorers, the good foundation is created by playing lacrosse. I think about Steven Stamkos. I think about John Tavares. As young players, they were playing hockey, Owen Power, but they were also playing lacrosse. That gets the hands going, good, strong wrist, the ability to change the angle on your shot and really get a lot behind your shot without having to wind up a whole lot. So Coronado's 48 goals on the power play shorthanded. It didn't matter. This guy was scoring them at even strength all over the place. He had a chance to get 50, and he talked with Brock Shea and the coach there at the end of the year, and they said, well, do we want to get some younger guys in? Do you want to rest up? And Coronado said, you know what? I don't need 50. I got 48, 16 above everybody else. Let some of the younger guys have a chance. Let me get rested up for the playoffs. And it worked out. They're Clark Cup champs.
Absolutely.
Well, like a winner, he added the 7 or 8 he had in the playoffs, and he got his 50. Right?
Yeah, right.
That's what they do.
Should
nice.
And that's who he is, a great character kid, kid from New York, Long Island, know him well, a great family. The best player on the best team, to win the league. Those are the kind of guys you want, character guys.
40 points in his first 19 games. Big Islander fans. He loves Nick Leddy. Emily Kaplan has more from the 614.
Yes, Matthew Coronado grew up on Long Island, but he's not necessarily from a hockey family. He went to Catholic school, then prep school. He wanted to go to the USHL, but basically had to convince his parents that was the right path. But once he got to the Chicago Steel, he tore it up, and he was nicknamed the Bison for the way that he charged to the net. And, the thing about Matthew Coronado is that he was never the first guy chosen. He was never really part of a national team development program. But those close to him say that he has never lost that feeling of being just one of the guys. And he went to 3 different high schools, but that didn't prevent him from going to Harvard, where he's attending next year. Back to you guys.
Yeah, he should make a big impact in college hockey this year, playing for Teddy Donato and Harvard. So, as you can see, it's Coronado to Calgary, as we want to focus back on the number 4 pick there. Luke Hughes, of course, the third Hughes brother to be taken in the top 10. First time that's happened in NHL history. Our JP Morosi is with all 3 Hughes brothers.
What a night here at the Hughes household in Michigan. Quinn, the newest New Jersey Devil, Luke, and Jack. Luke, we talked 3 years ago. You were sitting in these exact same seats. The dream of playing together with one of your brothers in the NHL. What is the reality like?
It's dream come true, and I'm super happy, super excited to play with Jack, and someday hopefully play with Quinn too. So, I'm super excited to be a Devil.
Your grandmother Penny said she had never seen you so happy, Jack. What did you feel when you heard that announcement?
It's an awesome. It's a great pick for our team. Getting a great player, but I'm proud older brother right now, so I'm very excited.
So, Quinn, take me into the conversation. So after the Ducks made their pick, what were you saying to each other here?
I just think we weren't sure if he was going there or not. Of course, everyone wanted him to go there, and I was kind of just telling him, if you don't go there, don't worry about it. The rink stinks anyways. And of course, thinking, really excited. I want him to go there, but like Jack said, I think they made a great pick. First of all, for the team, first and foremost, I think he's going to really help them. And then, of course, the brother dynamic. I'm a little jealous, and I'm super excited for them. So it's really cool, really special.
So, Luke, of course, you've worn the same number as your brothers at the USA National Development Program, and now you're actually wearing one of Jack's jerseys. What did it mean to pull that sweater over your head?
It's a dream come true. I'm so excited, and I'm really happy right now. So.
We could actually, of course, we announced the NHL schedule. We could actually have the first game of the next season in the cul-de-sac here. Devils against Canucks, right? No sense in waiting until February. But could we do that maybe? You have some rollerblades we could put on? You have to kill off a penalty for a while.
I don't think I could take both of them, but it's I think as a family we're just extremely happy for him, and hopefully these guys will be playing together in the next year or two, and definitely very special, yeah.
And Jack, to know your parents, of course, going coast to coast. Now, at least having 2 teams to follow for Jim Frelin, what does this mean?
Yeah, it's going to make life easier for sure. They won't have to fly to a third city, so it'll be nice. Me and Ty Smith got to get a third room eventually, though, for our another roommate. So, I'm pumped to have Luke. It's a great pick.
And lastly, more than 11,000 draft picks in the history of the NHL. First time ever. 3 brothers all having gone in the top 10. Quinn, your thoughts on NHL history?
Super special. A lot of great league, one of the best leagues in the world, and a lot of great talents come through. And I think you really have to just look at our parents. It's too hard to do. It's not like we're a bunch of specimens. We're 6'6". I mean, me and Jack are 5'10" flat, and so I think they really had to teach us the game, and extremely hard, and a lot of credit to them. And I think it's just this is a big time family night for everyone, and a lot of joy.
Well, 32 teams in the league now. University of Michigan might be number 33, though, with 4 of the top 5 picks, right, Luke, your team this coming season?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited to come to Michigan and, try to win a national championship. So,
well, what a great night. Congratulations, guys.
Like a boy band sitting there, didn't they? Man, that's great. All right, Sabres are up. Got to take a goalie, right, Weeksy? Come on.
Come on now. They're going to need one.
All right, let's find out. Commissioner Gary Bettman. Sabres up again.
What do we got?
For the 14th selection, we return to KeyBank Center in Buffalo, New York, where the Sabres will make their second pick of the first round. Jerry Fortin, Director of Amateur Scouting, will be making the pick.
The Buffalo Sabres are pleased to select from Leksand in the Swedish Hockey League, Isaac Rosen.
Isaac Rosen, Isak Rosin. Take your pick. Tomato, tomato. Chicken parm, veal parm. Are you surprised at this pick, Sam?
Well, he could use some chicken parm and some veal parm. He, Coronado, Boucher, guys that I expected to be high risers. Fyodor Svechkov would be the other guy. We haven't seen him picked yet. But there was a lot of talk about Rosen moving up to the draft as we got a lot closer. You're talking about a guy that is a lot like Kent Johnson. This is 156 pounds.
Yeah, right.
He's obviously very light on his skates. No problem with the hands and the feet. When they work in sync at that speed and you can think the game at that level, you're going to have a lot of success. And a lot of success is what Rosin had. Great puck transporter, goal scorer. At the under-18s, last 5 games had goals in each one of those. And so it's that goal-scoring ability. It's so difficult to find, especially at even strength in the National Hockey League. You think that when he develops physically, that he's going to be a guy who's going to be able to do that for the Buffalo Sabres, and the Sabres need a lot of different pieces. This is just another one of Kevin Adams' tricks here to go with Rosin, who I think is going to be a successful goal scorer at the next level.
Outstanding skater, too, and can get great separation from defenders, 1 or 2 steps, which is so key in this game because the pace is high. It's harder and harder to find seams to be able to make plays, and he complements that skating ability with his shot as well from people I speak to over in Sweden.
Yeah, he made the trade to go get the pick and to do something. Obviously, he had his eyes on something. Their room must have talked about this, and they look like they're taking a swing for a home run, and he's got a lot of skills. So,
I want some guys who can make plays. He's a playmaker. The right-handed shooting Swede goes to the Buffalo Sabres. Well, Kent Johnson went earlier, maybe a bit higher, maybe not. We knew he had tons of skill. The Columbus Blue Jackets get him at 5th overall, and the Michigan Wolverine is with Jackie Redmond.
Kent, for years, I think this draft is going to be known as the Michigan Draft. First time this many players from the same school have gone in the first round, let alone the top 5 of the NHL Draft. How excited are you for yourself, but also to share this with your really close friends?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I felt like I was getting picked when those guys got picked too. So it was so exciting, and for the 4 of us to go in the top 5 and go so early, it's just awesome, and I can't wait to keep playing with those guys.
Well, we had Matty Benier's reaction live on an interview, and he was genuinely so thrilled to see you get picked. Were you expecting to get picked this early, or what was your mindset coming into this night?
Yeah, I definitely thought I could get picked and probably would get picked a little earlier than maybe some of the media showed. So wasn't too surprised, but definitely, anything can happen. So I was super fired up when I got picked.
As you should be, and confidence is never a bad thing. Congratulations again on becoming a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and enjoy tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie.
6 of the first 13 picks were NCAA players. Previous record was 4. You got some news?
I have some news to break here. It appears that the Dallas Stars are going to be moving down from pick 15 and exchanging with the Detroit Red Wings at 23.
Ooh.
Perhaps they're going to be swapping. So,
goalie?
Could there be a goalie here?
I won't ask for it again.
Yeah, no, keep asking for it. Of course, you got to think that at this point.
You're a good lobbyist.
We're not even on Capitol Hill.
And he's a Swede.
Well set in the event that they go in that direction, or do they go Sebastian Cossa? I'm not sure, but I think it'll be either one of those two.
All right, so Dallas looks like they moved down. Detroit moves up to 15 to pick next in front of the Rangers. I don't think they would have taken a goalie. St. Louis Winnipeg. There's Steve Yzerman, Little Caesar Arena, where they have their draft room assembled this evening, getting ready to pick. Again, they picked at 6th. It appears they have moved up to 15. Dallas moves down. And again, many thought they would take the goalie here at some point, but maybe not. What do you think, Sam?
Well, you acquire Nedeljkovic, and you're trying to wonder, you get him a 2-year deal, you're wondering if he's going to be able to carry the mail for you. But I always say, if you're going to draft a goalie, you should already have one because they take a little while to get there. That 3 to 5 year developmental plan for the goaltender, and you look at all the prospects that they 33 picks the last couple of years, 21 picks the next couple, at some point all these guys have to come together, and what do you need at the back end?
Tender.
Vasilevsky.
Exactly.
You need a tendy back there so that all your players can make some mistakes, give up some 2-on-1s, and yet have the confidence that they're going to be able to go and score goals knowing that the defensive part is taken care of.
You mentioned Spencer Knight at the start. Spencer Knight, you look at what he's doing now, coming out of college hockey. You see how he stepped in seamlessly, won the WJC World Juniors, gold, college hockey, BC. I mean, you name it, what he's been able to do in going up with the Panthers. Why not reach for a goal? Gortz, have we convinced you yet? Talk to us. Talk to the world, Gortz. Come on.
Well,
try it.
If Stevie Yzerman does it, I could be convinced.
Yes.
He's been pretty successful in the leagues.
Yes.
So we'll look. But Chad Lucius plays in Ann Arbor, right?
Too.
Good call.
Stevie's been known to go see some games, so maybe you could be leaning that way.
Yeah, he's heading to the Minnesota Golden Gophers to play. Great shot. Certainly a guy that adds skill up front if they want. But again, a lot of people identify the Red Wings with Jesper Wallstedt, especially the Swedish goaltender. But some feel Sebastian Cossa at 6'6" with some athleticism is the future, right? You talk about fighting for pucks through screens. He kind of has that game and the athleticism to recover.
And he's gone through some adversity personally as well. And I like when you have to travel and go over a few speed bumps on your path to getting there.
Let's find out what Steve Yzerman's doing with this second round pick, Commissioner Bettman.
Dallas is trading pick number 15 to Detroit for picks number 23, 48, and 138, all in this year's draft. So Dallas sends 15 to Detroit for 23, obviously a first-round pick, 48, second-round pick, and 138. So Detroit, you're now on the clock.
So there it is. So Detroit, the pick isn't quite ready to go, but I imagine it'll be done quickly. When you make a trade like this, Jeff, you know who you're taking, correct?
Yeah, I think they're making the move. They're thinking another team is going to take a guy, and they don't want to take any chance, and they really like somebody. Their room's been pounding the table. And
do you like that return for Dallas? 23, 48, and 138. Is that about standard stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a going rate if you look at over the years. When you go moving up and moving down, it looks like about right.
You go to a familiar dance partner. Jim Nill and Steve Yzerman would have known each other through the Detroit Red Wings organization. But I'm looking at Dallas here and thinking about Jim Nill, Joe McDonnell, and you're thinking about the last two drafts. They've only had 9 total picks. So now they've got to restock the cupboards. They have a pretty good complement right now, but the additional 2 picks to move down a few spots is really helpful in that regard.
And Detroit, 33 picks over the last 3 years.
They can afford to give a few.
Yeah, we can't have too many players here now. We can pick one that we want. So here are the top prospects for the Red Wings. Overall, Jeff, how would you evaluate the Red Wings farm system right now, if you will, and young players?
Yeah, I think it's on the come, right? It's Sider, and you're thinking about Lucas Raymond,
right?
And I think they're doing a good job. This is how they did it in Tampa, and this is the same blueprint. And as you build your team, you start to look down the middle. You look on the defense. Maybe Weeksy gets his
guy here.
Gets his.
You've had great ones,
Yeah.
Makes all the difference in the world. You've had all these playoff runs.
Are you jealous of Steve Yzerman's rope that he has in Detroit? This man has a lifetime contract, I think, as GM.
It goes from here to Detroit.
Yeah, he's earned it.
And of course, like we said, what he's done in Tampa Bay and what the result has been since he left for Detroit. Now he's obviously somewhat of the same game plan, but here he goes. Sam, we look at who's available here. Lucius is obviously a really good player heading to Minnesota, as Jeff mentioned. There's the goaltender Wallstedt. There's the goaltender Cossa. Anybody else jump out of those 3 that you think maybe should be higher?
With all the success that they've had in Sweden, Fabian Lysell is a guy that you would have to have done a deep dive on. Early on in the scouting community, there was some talk about some character issues, and you have to make that determination. Is it a character issue? Does it border on criminality, or is it simply immaturity? And if you come to the determination that it's immaturity, you're looking at probably one of the top 2 or 3 in that Kent Johnson category as being the most dynamic player in this draft class. And again, with their relationships, Håkan Andersson, Sweden, they're not unforeign to the country there. So he's a guy there that might have some interest here if they don't go Weeksy's way.
Do you know what else might be my way? Let's go back home to Pickering, Ontario. Brennan Othman. Just keep an eye on Brennan Othman.
Right. Played in Flint.
Yep.
Gary Bettman introduced Detroit.
For the 15th selection in the 2021 draft, we return to Hockeytown and Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan. And Steve Yzerman, Executive VP and GM of the Detroit Red Wings, will make the second pick for the first round for the Detroit Red Wings. Steve?
With the 15th pick, Detroit selects from the Western Hockey League's Edmonton Oil Kings, Sebastian Cossa.
As his goalie, 17-1-1, .941 save percentage in the shortened season last year for Sebastian Cossa. 6'6" and athletic, Sam.
You know, there's been a lot of things that this young man has had to go through in this rise to prominence, and he's a good community guy. The Hockey Gives Blood program, and he's ambassador there. But you think about some of the personal adversity where the fires in Fort McMurray displaced the family for 3 months. They get back into their house. They got to evacuate again because of the floods. They were able to stay with some family in Calgary. But the start of this guy's career, he had to battle 2 veterans to get the net. He did it. He ended up moving one of them. One of them went to the Ontario Hockey League. And he's playing along and things are going good. He's got the cock of the walk. And then they acquire Beck Warm, who recently signed. And he says, whoa, son, hold on, man. The pro is coming into the nets here. And so instead of Cossa whining, complaining, kicking rocks, he's got the lower lip out. He says, I'm going to learn from this guy. And he learned about preparation, warming up, cooling down, stretching, eye exercises for the goaltender. And as a result of that, he grew, and that mentorship really meant a lot to him. Last 2 games of the year, doesn't mean anything for Edmonton. They were winning the division, no problem. Brad Lauer says, I'm going to give the young guy a shot. Cossa says, no, you're not. I want those games. And so he walks into Lauer's office and says, I'm going to take those games. Lauer says, slow down, bud. Your numbers are really good here. We'll give you the first game and see what happens. Well, he lights it up there in that first game. And as a result, he ends up getting the second game. They win that one as well. And the numbers are Bugs Bunny-like for Sebastian Cossa this year. Pretty amazing stuff for this young man. At 6'6", he always fits the category for an NHL general manager. He's not too small.
Exactly. There's a lot to chew on here. Keep in mind, when we saw Steve Yzerman, what he did with his archetype and what he did in building the Tampa Bay Lightning, they drafted Vasilevsky. We talked about that. Well, he strikes again. He goes for Cossa, another big, powerful goalie. He knows everything that Vasilevsky's been able to do for his former franchise. Not to mention, I do love this about Cossa as well. He trains with pro guys right now. And he's training with Carter Hart, and he's also training with a few others in the area there in Alberta. And I respect that about him. He's getting in and around those guys. Tristan Jarry, who's also an all-star, who is another alum as well of the Edmonton Oil Kings.
3.5 hours south of Detroit is Columbus, Ohio. That's where Emily Kaplan is with more. Emily.
Sebastian might be the draft's renaissance man. His dad is Italian, didn't start skating until he's 40, now refs beer league games. Sebastian actually played football until he was 13. As a self-proclaimed big boy, played both center and linebacker. In fact, he was 6'4" by the time he was 14 years old. Now, teammates say that he is a legendary chirper from the crease, but off the ice, he's a really hard worker. Every summer, he works at a tabletop shop, carpentry, manual labors, makes custom tabletops for restaurants and homes. So, guys, there's nothing this guy can't do. Bucci?
His brother calls him Seabass, and he's got Neely's Seabass character from Dumb and Dumber on the mask. There he is. He looks very angry.
I love that. He's ready to stop pucks.
Detroit, you have
ready to make saves.
You have your goalie of the future.
You look like Jack Hughes right now. You got that big smile going
right now. I'm beaming right now.
I will say on the goalie, whether or not you believe taking a goalie in the first round is right or wrong, what he did do is he traded up and got a guy that wasn't going to be there, right?
Exactly.
So he made a trade where this guy wasn't going to be where he was.
Gotcha. Who's on deck? The Rangers are on deck. Jeff Gordon was in that room the last few years. Now it's Chris Drury at the microphone to make his first selection, running the Rangers. 16th selections, Vladimir Tarasenko. Tom Wilson. 16th overall selections. The Rangers pick is next. So the Red Wings trade in front of the Rangers and select Sebastian Cossa. Perhaps they had some intel on the Rangers' interest in that netminder. So what does Chris Drury do now with the Rangers selection, the first pick? The pick is in, Commissioner Gary Bettman.
The 16th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft will be made from the MSG Training Center in Westchester, New York, by New York Rangers President and General Manager Chris Drury. Chris?
The New York Rangers are proud to select from the Flint Firebirds, Brennan Othmann.
The left winger is gone. Sam, what can you tell Ranger fans about Brennan Othmann?
They're going to be really happy about him because he plays with a little bit of edge. And at times you think that he's always been the sidecar. He was to Shane Wright with the Don Mills team, and then he goes to the under-18s. You know, you got Wright and Bedard, they're doing their thing over there. And Othmann's just quietly going about his business. And he really grew on Coach Dave Barr there because he started out and they were wandering around a little bit positionally out of play, wrong side of the puck, and Dave Barr tuned him up and said, hey, you want to remain on that top line? You better get going here, young man. And that he did. So he's proven that he can play with elite players, but also play an elite style of game. The hands are really good. Yeah. The skating has improved. And I remember going to a private skate and remembering him from the under-16 days, and I'm saying to myself, wow, this guy's grown a bit. He's skating a little better. Some other scouts there, they said the exact same thing. What's really cool is that him and his mom got together and they're trying to find a better nutrition program for him. They don't want to spend thousands of dollars like some of these guys going to train. So they find a local guy, and during the pandemic, he sets up a gym in his garage. And Brennan says, I don't want to drive 45 minutes. I want to use that time to work out 10 minutes from the home. Yeah. He goes, I don't want to hang out with the guys and be distracted and skate and laugh and do all that kind of stuff. I'm serious about this. I got to go after it. And he did. And he just trained by himself in that garage gym. Might have got a little lonely at times, but you know what? It worked out pretty well now. A New York Ranger he is.
No question. My sister and brother-in-law live in the area in Pickering there, and I can tell you, knowing his uncle, Rob Othmann, who used to play with us with the Toronto Red Wings, and the dad, Jerry, they both ended up playing pro over in Switzerland. A lot of people don't recognize him. When Othmann went over there, he played exceptionally well. In the second league in Switzerland, as a youngster going over there, I mean, Gortz, when you're able to see that, the clutch gene that he's had going back to playing minor hockey, then going to the O in Flint, and of course you're talking about U18s, he's just continued to shoot up the boards. And a lot of people now are enamored with the edge and skill combination that he brings to the table.
Yeah, it looks to me like he's got a mentality like a Chris Kunitz kind of guy. And I don't know, we might have heard a rumor that the Rangers are trying to play a little harder. So this will help that as they move forward.
That was a rumor. A rumor nice. Heard, huh?
Nice.
Shout out to Mom Page. Yep. She's the one who got the nutrition and the weight program going. And yeah, that's a secret to life is lift weights, start early, and never stop. All right, Sam?
Don't forget your mom.
Never stop lifting weights. It's the only fountain of youth that's out there, people. St. Louis, Doug Armstrong, we know him as Army. We're now at the point where we're in the middle of the first round. So what are GMs thinking? Is this when you pretty much lean on your scouts and you're out of the equation now?
Well, no. I think what happens now is you have your guys tap you on the thing here, and they might really like somebody and say, can you go get this guy? You know, we saw it with what Detroit did. That might be what teams are doing, and Doug has been known to do that, to wait and listen to what teams are saying. So I would look for that for some GMs right now, the next few guys to listen. Maybe the call comes in, and they can get a few extra picks.
I'll tell you what, this is an interesting time for St. Louis because it was only a few years ago where they won the Stanley Cup. They still have a lot of character, a lot of outstanding pieces, some younger players now in the lineup taking big strides. And you look at their team, perhaps they end up making a trade at some point here around Tarasenko, perhaps they don't. But either way, they still have a really outstanding team, I believe. They still have the pieces in place to contend.
You think about Vince Dunn being gone, and then you think about this next tier of defensemen. Carson Lambos comes into play. Corson Kuhlman's had a great under-18s, a good skater, an offensive type of guy. Daniil Chayka had an up-and-down sort of year. So now we're moving into that territory where the second goalie, Volstedt, will come into play. But that second tier of defensemen, and they'll start coming off the board here before too long.
It lost in the first round each of the last 2 years since winning that cup in 2019. Commissioner Gary Bettman.
The 17th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft will be made from the Enterprise Center in St. Louis, Missouri, by St. Louis Blues President of Hockey Operations and General Manager Doug Armstrong. Doug?
St. Louis selects from Rimouski, Zachary Bolduc.
Had all the hats there just in case you could pick up the blue note. Still, I think the best logo in all of sports. I love the blue note.
Sweet.
This guy's a real slippery player. Jeff, a lot of skill that Doug Armstrong and his staff decided to go with.
Yeah, beautiful skater, lots of talent here. He played with Lafreniere, scored 30 goals as a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
So he's been on the map a little bit, but maybe a little bit undersized. But as he gets a little bigger and stronger, he's got all kinds of talent. He could be a real top 6 player for somebody.
I thought it was really underrated in a lot of the people I talked to, but there's a game I remember doing back in December, playing against Drummondville, and he scored goals in 3 different ways, and I was so impressed. This guy's mitts are silky smooth. He's knocking pucks out of the air. He's deflecting pucks. He can shoot it from a distance with a little zip on it, and you saw him on the power play playing with Lafreniere. 13 of his 30 goals that year were scored on the one-time side. He's got a bullet of a shot, but he's not afraid to go to the net either. Yes, of course, he has to mature physically, and yes, there was the injury issue at the end of the year that set him back, but I think the head coach there, Serge Beausoleil, has done a great job. He allowed him to get his cookies as a 16-year-old. That power play, Dimitri Zavgorodny, Cedric Pare, Isaac Bellevaux, Alexis Lafreniere was unbelievable. It was over 30%. And then he came back the second year, and he tried to be a little bit of Alexis. You can't be that guy. So he had to create his own identity. It took him a little while, but the head coach, Serge Beausoleil, really held him accountable and said, you had your cookies last year, now you need to find a more complete game. And I give him credit for doing so.
Emily Kaplan with more from Columbus.
What I have heard about Zachary Bolduc is that he is a rink rat. His youth coach, Denis Francoeur, told me when he was 9-10 years old, they basically had to reprimand him to leave the rink. Now, Zachary, whose first language is French, really wanted the American college experience, and everyone wanted him. Michigan, Penn State, BC, BU, UMass, Wisconsin. But then he got the best recruiting pitch, and it was from Rimouski's biggest alumni, Sidney Crosby, basically selling him on that as a path. Then Bolduc scored 30 goals in 55 games in his first season alongside Alexis Lafreniere, and I don't think he has looked back since. Bucci?
You must have noticed him, obviously, scouting Alexis. Did you consider, hey, maybe I could take him? Like, you saw him as a player a year or two out?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the luxuries you have when you're watching the guy you have to really pay attention to. But,
yeah,
it definitely jumps out. There's a top 6 forward in there, I'm sure of it.
Cool. The Winnipeg Jets on the clock now. Man, this is a team that seems to always have a lot of talent. Got a great, big, gigantic goaltender in there as well. What's the plan in Winnipeg?
I love the synergy they have, starting from their owner, Mark Chipman, moving on down to Kevin Cheveldayoff. Craig Heisinger is the assistant general manager there. Paul Maurice has been there for a long time. When you have that kind of synergy amongst your management and your ownership group, it gives you the confidence to do things the exact way you want to do them. You don't have someone over this shoulder telling you what to do, over that shoulder what to do. You've been delegated the responsibility of acquiring the best players for your hockey club. And so I love that environment that Kevin Cheveldayoff is able to work in. The one guy that sort of comes to mind for me here is Carson Lambos.
Yeah.
He grew up playing his minor hockey in Winnipeg, junior hockey in Winnipeg. We're into that second-tier defenseman now. We've seen that defensive core get depleted a little bit over the years. With Trouba going, they had to acquire Pionk and do some things there. So Logan Stanley's come a long way. Maybe that's an area in which they want to move.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And they have some really nice prospects, really headlined by Cole Perfetti, who they selected last year, who's outstanding in Saginaw, and of course, unfortunately didn't get the chance to play this year. But all that being equal, if I look at some of these pieces that are available still on the board, I mean, Chaz Lucius?
Yeah.
Anybody?
They only got 4 picks, and here's the first one, Commissioner Gary Bettman.
From Winnipeg, Manitoba, the general manager of the Winnipeg Jets, Kevin Cheveldayoff, will be making the 18th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft. Kevin?
Thanks, Gary. The Winnipeg Jets are proud to select from USA Hockey National Team Development Program, Chaz Lucius.
Winnipeg always seems to get a good player. He's on his way to Minnesota. Lots of skill, really good player, and these Canadian teams keep taking Americans.
Exactly. Closing the gap. A lot of these players have improved so much. I love what USA Hockey is doing right now with the development model. We talked about it off the top, the physicality, the training, the nutrition, the mental kind of aptitude element of the game, the skill development, it's been awesome. And Chaz Lucius,
cool.
You know, when this guy had the bone lesion in the knee, and you think of what he's been able to go through, this is a young man that had to relearn how to walk based on his injury, the severity of it. And I got to tell you, I'm blown away by that progression. And him going and spending time in a hyperbaric chamber, which I've done numerous times, which is something that pro athletes and Olympic athletes do. For him to have the wherewithal to do that and have that commitment, that blew me away as much as his skills.
Well, the thing they say about him, not only is he a goal scorer, but he has a knack to score big goals. That's huge. For him, he came back from the injury right away, big points right away. There's another guy with big upsides, plays down the middle. And Winnipeg has had a lot of luck and drafted really well, so he's going to fit in.
They're looking in the mirror and they're seeing Kyle Connor all over again. Guy that came from the program, really good goal scorer, little bit slight of frame, yet still at the National Hockey League level has the ability to score goals. So Lucius missed a lot of time, but he didn't take a lot of time getting back. Chicago Steel first game back, 2 goals scored. And that must have lifted a huge burden off of his shoulders after being in a wheelchair, the hyperbaric chamber, the journaling, the reading that he had to do to try and fill the time before he was able to come back. But how about that move?
Hello.
Legs, hello. You got to love it, Chaz Lucius. He has the ability to score in a variety of ways. And when you talk about doing it in big situations, that's something that is definitely needed. You look at the depth of scoring for the Winnipeg Jets. It's not going to happen for Chaz immediately. But I think the Jets see another Kyle Connor in this player.
I don't disagree. I mean, he's a real dynamic player, and he can generate offense, and he has the skill and the will to make those plays, and also the guts to make some of those offensive plays as well.
Chaz delicious. Kyle had a freshman year to remember in Michigan. Wow, he was unbelievable. Maybe Chaz can do the same this fall down there for the Gophers in Minneapolis. All right, Nashville is next. Can you get a good guy at 19? Hello, Ryan Getzlaf, Stanley Cup champion. Hello, Andrei Vasilevsky. Those guys might be in Toronto one day, and by Toronto I mean the Hall. Their pick is next. The NHL Draft continues. The Nashville Predators on the clock, Edmonton on deck, and the Bruins and the Wild as David Poile and the Preds making some moves in the offseason. Team that's kind of, I don't want to say teetering, but, you know, what direction are they going, Jeff Gordon?
Well, I think a little bit in between.
Yeah,
you know,
that's what I meant. Yeah,
you know, trying to, you know, they have some high-priced guys there. They left off in the expansion and trying to figure out where they're going there. You know, always drafted pretty well and developed defensemen.
Yeah.
Right? So
trade one to Philly.
Yeah. So I would say, you know, they have a couple good young players they've drafted the last couple of years. I would look for him to. I don't know. I always think defense when I'm thinking Nashville. Too weeksy.
I think one of the sore spots for them is the lack of consistency up front. Offensive punch for them that's consistent because their offensive guys leave them wanting more. And David Poile was pretty public about that. But my discussions with him over the last little while, he said the same thing. John Hines wants somebody that can carry the mail offensively, that can make plays. Be you, John Hines, but you know, somebody that you can count on a regular basis and up front.
Well, the Detroit Red Wings having a pretty good night so far. They take a guy, Simon Edvinsson, who they probably hope will be close to Victor Hedman, and then take Sebastian Cossa. They hope will be close to Vasilevsky, who was a first-round pick as well. So these goalies go in the first round. Maybe they're going to start to turn into Stanley Cup champions. Jackie Redmond is with the man who made those two selections, Steve Yzerman, to find out why he did.
Steve, you guys move up and trade picks to move up in the draft to get goaltender Sebastian Cossa. What was it about this player that made him a crucial add for you?
Well, we think he's got a chance to be a really good goaltender in the National Hockey League. As you know, yesterday we acquired Alex Nedeljkovic, 25-year-old goaltender. We felt that adding an 18-year-old prospect with Alex and net in Detroit, we got a great young prospect that we can just be patient and let him develop and potentially have really solidified the goaltending position in Detroit.
Well, you have been a very busy man. One of my favorite quotes this year came from Jeff Blashill. He said, "You're either getting by or you're getting better." From Vrana to Nedeljkovic, Rasmussen signing, Leddy, you add Alex Tanguay to the coaching staff. You have been a very busy man. How much better are the Detroit Red Wings now than they were 5 months ago?
I don't really know the answer to that. We'll find out. We like to think we're progressing in the right direction. We're pleased with some of the moves that we've made, and tonight we're very happy with the 2 selections we made.
All right, well, congratulations on both picks and everything from the last few weeks. Best of luck moving forward.
Thank you very much.
Looks like they got 2 good ones. The Red Wings at 6 and 15. Nashville, as we mentioned, on the clock now. Last year they took the Russian goaltender, 11th overall. And this year, as you can see, there they are at 19. Who will they take this time? The pick is in. Commissioner Gary Bettman.
From outside of the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee, President of Hockey Operations and General Manager David Poile will make the 19th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft on behalf of the Nashville Predators. David?
Thank you, Gary. Welcome to Smashville, and thank you for all the fans for coming out here as usual to be a great loyal following. The Nashville Predators are drafting from Toyota in the MHL in Russia. The Predators are proud to select Fedor Svechkov.
There you go. Nothing like Nashville. Ryman Auditorium right around the corner. Let's go, Jason Isbell. Get a concert there soon. I'll come back down and see you. Fedor Svechkov. Sometimes we see center next to players' names, but we're not sure if they can play center in the NHL. What do you think? Can this guy be a center iceman?
Yeah, I do, based on what we saw from the under-18s, and you hope that that progression moves forward. This is the type of player that when you're in Russia, you're in the MHL and you're a star there, or if you're a superstar, you end up playing in the KHL. It's not often that you see young players play in the VHL, which is the AHL equivalent. So he spent a lot of time there, 38 games, had 15 points in those games. For an under-18 player, that's second most all time. And again, you're playing against men, but just not at the highest level. So then he gets brought back to the under-18s. He's in his peer group, and he proves he can do everything. He can win face-offs for you. He can score goals. He's an excellent playmaker. He skates extremely well. The interesting part about this guy is he was getting a lot of late love from the scouting community that I was talking to. But the fact of the matter is there are some teams that worry about taking a Russian player knowing that he might not come. He has the option to go home. That player may not necessarily want to come over and play in the American Hockey League. This guy's not like that at all. He was telling that some scouts were telling me that in their interview process, he had taken it upon himself to learn English. Oftentimes when players come over to the CHL or the USHL, they have to learn English by proxy. It's not often that Russian players at that age who are staying over there take it upon themselves to learn the language. And I thought, that's really smart about this guy. He knows what his future is. I love that little tidbit about this young man.
Yeah, no question. And you speak about being progressive and open-minded. You got to credit the Nashville Predators for doing that because they go back to Russia in back-to-back years. It was Askarov last year, and they go back there this year. And I spoke with Daniel Bachner over there in Russia, who is skill development coach with Cheska, and he said, Weeksy, this guy's ability to make plays starting in the D zone, honoring the D zone responsibilities, a big body center, great hockey IQ, can protect the puck, manipulate defenders, and make players around him better. That's a 200-foot two-way center iceman there.
Yeah, he had terrific U18, right? I think early in the season, people were talking about a third-line center. After U18, I think his stock rose.
No question. No question.
Elliot Friedman has been with us throughout the night on our NHL draft coverage. Of course, had a couple of big deals today to talk about. Now we're wondering about Jack Eichel. Elliot, anything falling on the Jack Eichel front this evening?
Well, what we can tell you, John, is that a lot of the action in Buffalo was about the other center, Sam Reinhart. A number of teams have made calls to the Sabres, and there has been a lot of conversations today about Reinhart. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I believe Florida's been around there, and I believe Columbus has been around there, along with some other teams who've had interest in him. On Eichel, what I can tell you is just in making calls around today, the ask is still very high, and there were some teams who just felt that they weren't willing to pay what Buffalo was asking. Eichel is skating. I believe there's still a disagreement between the Sabres and the player about where to go medically here. I don't think that's been sorted out. I think he's probably a little bit frustrated and was hoping that maybe tonight would be the night for him, but it sounds like the action is hotter on Reinhart right now than it is Eichel. And, you know, I think some teams, they've been in and out, they've kind of backed off a little bit, and they're just basically playing a waiting game with Buffalo to see if the ask does come down.
All right, Elliot. Jeff, you know, when you think about the player, the kind of player and the term and everything involved, is there a time that makes more sense when he is dealt? we got free agency coming up. We got the draft tonight. Is anything that you feel is a hot zone when he could be dealt, or is it just mutually exclusive? It doesn't matter.
No, I think it's been so out there that it just has to happen before they come back, most likely, right? The interesting thing on this one is we talked about Seth Jones. Seth Jones has a year left and can kind of dictate where he's going. Jack Eichel has many years left at $10 million, so they can send him wherever they want if they find the right deal. That's a better luxury than having a guy tell
for sure. For sure. They have some leverage, right, in the situation.
Totally, yeah. That's great hearing that from a GM, too, from that standpoint. And somebody else that's garnering a lot of attention there is Sam Reinhart. Sam Reinhart's continued progressing these last couple of years, and I spoke to a couple Western Conference teams right now, earlier in the evening and most recently, that are very, very interested in him. And even in spite of the fact that him and Jack Eichel are outstanding friends, and Eichel had the injury this year, Reinhart just got better and better and better, Cos.
You know what it looks like to me? It looks like Bill Guerin. Bill Guerin got rid of a lot of the old guard in Minnesota to change the room, to change the culture there. You're talking about Ristolainen, gone. You're talking about moving Sam Reinhart. You're talking about moving Jack Eichel. I think Kevin Adams is looking and saying, we want to change things around here, and we want to do it pretty drastically. They're on their way to doing it.
We have a trade. Edmonton is up. I don't know if it involves them. Commissioner Gary Bettman, the details.
Well, actually, it does involve them. The Edmonton Oilers trade pick number 20 in the 2021 NHL Draft to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for picks number 22 this year, a first-round pick, and pick number 90 also in the 2021 Draft. So the Oilers trade 20 to the Wild for 22 and 90, and that means Minnesota, you're on the clock.
So Edmonton moves down 2 slots to gain a third. My guess is they feel their player will be there at 22, so they get a free third. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure that's the goalie or not. Jesper Wallstedt is sitting there, but what do you think of this kind of trade?
That's what we were talking about, right? There's a team, Minnesota, and an aggressive general manager that is sitting in his room for now 2 hours saying, our guy's still there. Our guy's still
there. And they think Boston might take him? Is that why they move up here? They have some intel there? Like, how does that work?
You might have some intel. Sometimes it's wrong. We've seen that. But you have a strong feeling about the player, number one. That's the biggest thing. So they want the player. They don't want to leave him for anybody else, Minnesota. And these guys, Edmonton, are going to walk back and say, we're going to get our guy here, right? So, this is, I think, what we're seeing. This is the kind of draft we're seeing.
But giving up a third to move up 2 spots, this tells me they think Boston's going to take him, right?
Well, I mean, I would think it happened. It seemed to happen before as Detroit moved up.
Okay.
It could be the case. It could be the case. But they definitely feel like someone is.
Yeah.
But Edmonton doesn't pick again until the 4th without this deal.
Yeah.
So Ken Holland acquires a well-needed asset. I mean,
great for him.
That's such a huge gap there with the uncertainty of this draft.
Yeah.
There's a gem you're going to find a lot better in the 3rd than you are waiting until the 4th. So it makes a lot of sense. Bill Guerin, this guy's awesome, man.
Yeah,
he just shoots from the hip. He comes out and he's guns a-blazing. I love what he's been able to do there, and he's just taken charge, and he has just kind of wiped it clean over there.
Yeah, if you love a player, then go get him, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree. I think you both make some great points. Keep in mind, Billy Guerin played for the Edmonton Oilers, too, and Billy G had a great career himself. But you're right. He has been able to cleanse the room and make this a team that's on the rise right now. I thought Minnesota had an outstanding season. They really did. He was the person that was able to bring Kaprizov over, and credit to him for bringing him over. Because I said in that World Junior, he was the best player in that World Junior tournament.
Yeah, he was unreal.
He was unreal for Team Russia, and he made it happen. He brought him over. So I like how they're situated now. He said they didn't want to be a vanilla team anymore. Minnesota had been kind of the mild instead of the wild, and he wanted to add a little more edge to their group. They're starting to get that right now.
I like it, Weeksy.
A little wild.
Well, they haven't been very good. If you're a Wild fan, you got to be not real pleased. You haven't won a playoff series since 2015. You've won 2 since 2003.
Exactly.
So, it's time to get going.
Exactly.
And let's do something. So you're right. And Kaprizov gave them a flavor they just didn't have before.
Totally. And I like the progression of Jordan Greenway, too. Let's not sleep on Jordan Greenway.
Yep. BU Terrier.
BU Terrier, big power forward. And he played with more jam this year, too. Yep. He grew into a size, Gortz, this year for me.
Yeah. And what I'm learning is you found Kaprizov, which is excellent.
5th round, Weeksy.
Hey, just saying.
Found him at a wedding, too. A few weeks ago. So Billy Guerin moving up to Edmonton's spot at 20. The Bruins are on deck, and then Edmonton picks at 22. And then Stevie Y's up again at 23. So as the clock continues to tick down, now 2 minutes left. And here are the prospects for the Wild. We mentioned Kaprizov came in. That's a bit of a dicey situation right now. There was talk about an Eichel deal with some of these prospects. I don't know if they went down there, but man, the buyout of Parise and Suter is such a giant cap hit down the road. It's a weird thing to deal with when you have space this year and then you don't have space.
Yeah, I'm just going to focus on this board quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shout out to Marco Rossi right now.
Okay.
Who, I mean, former Ottawa 67, one of my former OHL teams. What he's been able to overcome is nothing short of miraculous, and we're happy to see that he's in great health. This is a guy that is very dynamic offensively.
Oh, yeah.
Now that he's getting his legs underneath him and regaining the full health, keep an eye on him.
Commissioner Gary Bettman.
From the Minnesota Wild practice facility at Trier Rink in St. Paul, Minnesota, General Manager Bill Guerin will make the 20th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft for the Minnesota Wild. And it looks like you have some friends with you. So, Bill, you're up.
This year, we lost a beloved friend and colleague in our assistant general manager, Tom Curvers. After a long playing career, Tom re-entered the hockey world as an executive, where he had a positive impact on every team he worked for and every individual he came in contact with. Tom will be dearly missed and fondly remembered. Tonight, we have Tom's 4 children, Madison, Rosie, Weston, and Roman, to help us make our picks. Roman, you're up, buddy.
With the 20th pick in the 2021 NHL entry draft, the Minnesota Wild are proud to select Jesper Wallstedt from Luleå.
Well, that's a combination of heartbreaking and classy. Exactly. Right there to see those 4 children.
Absolutely.
Lost their dad. So Jesper Wallstedt is the pick. I thought Kenny Holland at 20 would maybe take this guy. There's been talking about a goaltender. Kenny was a goaltender back in the day. But it's Bill Guerin who identifies this Swedish goaltender who some say is an absolute stud and could be a guy, good size and great. You tell me his strengths, Kevin.
No, you're on it. You're onto it right there, Bucci. I mean, this is a guy that played up in the Swedish Elistrian and looked exceptionally comfortable doing that, playing in the highest pro level, and doing that not only with proficiency, but also with consistency as well. And as I look at him, I really loved him in the U18s, but in watching him play amongst men, he doesn't chase the game. I can't tell you how hard that is. Having been a young goalie myself, you want to jump around, you want to make every save, you want it so badly. And this guy, he's almost at the opposite end where he knows he's going to make the save. He's a big body with an NHL frame. And he's very positionally sound and just plays a very efficient game. This is one of the best goalie prospects out of Sweden in years.
Who would you compare him to? Anybody?
I mean, the easy reach would obviously be Henrik a lot, but you know who he actually reminds me of a little bit more? Cam Talbot, who they already have. Somebody you know very well. So I see a lot of Cam Talbot in his game, and Cam Talbot was awesome for the Wild this year. Great pick here by Billy Guerin in the Minnesota Wild.
Emily Kaplan has more from Columbus.
The Velstedt family lives down the street from Nicholas Lidstrom, but his favorite Swedish player unequivocally is Henrik Lundqvist. Jesper and his brother, also a goalie, used to stay up late to watch New York Rangers games, but often they just watch highlights on YouTube the next day. They also used to go to Henrik Lundqvist's goalie camps, and I asked Jesper, do you remember any advice that Henrik used to tell you? And he said, to be honest, no, I was pretty starstruck. That said, he's very composed in the net and really focuses on the power of breathing and breath work. When the puck is out of his zone, he focuses on filling up his lungs with fresh air so it can clear his mind. And guys, I've talked to a lot of NHL veterans who are just learning about the importance of breath work now. To hear a teenager talk about that, that's impressive stuff. Bucci?
Yeah, became the youngest player to appear in Sweden's U20 league when he was 14. That's like prodigy stuff.
Incredible.
Right there. So there it is. So far here in the 2021 Jamiroquai Virtual Insanity Draft.
Nice. So good.
Dylan Guenther.
So good.
Arizona, remember they had that pick forfeited for combine testing violations. They get one back today in that big deal with Vancouver, and they take Dylan Guenther, who's with Jackie Redmond.
Dylan, first off, congratulations, a dream realized. But I got to ask you about this 2 points per game this year. I mean, how? What was the key to your success this year in the WHL, just racking up points?
Yeah, no, I think, a lot of it has to go to the hard work that, our team puts in, all throughout the season last year, and then we were really looking to carry that forward into the next season this year. And, we all work extremely hard, and, a lot of credit goes to my teammates and to my line mates. I think, I would not have done that without them out there. And, I know that they're going to be working hard, just as hard as I am, to be putting our team in that position. So I think I'm super grateful for them. And, yeah, we had a great season. It was a lot of fun.
Answering like a pro already. It's like you're doing an intermission interview right now. But I'll ask you this. You've got this summer to work on your game. What is your goal now that you've achieved a lifelong dream of getting drafted?
Yeah, I think, really the work starts now. I think, now is really the opportunity to go there and prove to yourself and prove to the team that picked you that they made the right choice. And I think for me, just continuing to get stronger will help my overall game. And, along with my play along the walls, I think that's something that I'm looking to work on. And also my skating. I think, the game keeps getting faster, and skating is such an important skill that, everyone needs. And you can never be too good of a skater, so that's something that I always highlight in my off-season routine.
Well, you sound like a focused player. Congratulations again, and best of luck in Arizona.
Thank you so much.
All right, good stuff. The Boston Bruins now are on the clock. The Bees and Don Sweeney, an organization, Jeff Gorton, you spent some time with as an interim GM, part of the Lucic-Marchand draft, which did so well for the Bruins and led to a Stanley Cup eventually, the Kessel trade as well. What's a GM think in this position for a team? Again, they're kind of in that Nashville spot again where although actually maybe not quite, they see a window and they can still get one more cup with their core. So what do you add here? You're looking for something immediate, or you're still just thinking about organizational depth?
Yeah, I think it's organizational depth. I think at this spot in the draft, immediate would be a stretch.
Yeah.
You'd hope for and
you never know.
Strike lightning.
Yep.
But if you look at their team, just to increase to the overall skill level. They do like hard players, so I think we see a couple hard defensemen there. But there's some highly skilled forwards there too.
All right, the pick is in. Gary Bettman.
The 21st selection in the 2021 NHL Draft will be made by the Boston Bruins. Don Sweeney, general manager of the Bruins, joins us from the Warrior Ice Arena in Brighton, Massachusetts. Don?
Thanks, Gary. The Boston Bruins are proud to select from Luleå, the Swedish Hockey League, Fabian Lysell.
2021 NHL Draft will be made by
Fabian Lysell is the pick. You see a bit of a delay here, so they haven't quite heard the name now. So we'll see their reaction. It's always fun. Let's see if they go crazy. Oh, well, they're a little bit behind, but it's going to be Lysell, the right winger. We see a Nikolai Ehlers comparison. That wouldn't be terrible. Good genes. Dad was a professional soccer player. There's the reaction. Mom, world championship figure skater. So he's got good stems. Must be able to skate, Sam.
Oh, yeah, he can boogie. He is one of the most dynamic players that this draft class has to offer.
Hey,
but
now.
again, we talked a little bit about the character concerns with this guy, and so you really had to lean on your scouts to do a deep dive on him. But watch some of the dynamic ability. This is off of a penalty kill. He recognizes that the Belarusians are going to the bench. Oh, end-to-end, picking it up from just in front of his goalie.
Silky.
If that didn't tickle your fancy, how about this?
Looks like a mini pasta.
Yeah, got a little help there from the D-man. Thank you very much. Nikolai Ehlers, I've seen a little bit of that. Yeah, you gotta love it, baby. You gotta love it. That's that dynamic ability that he brings to the table. And it's not often that you see a first-year draft-eligible Swede asked to switch teams. He started in Frölunda, wasn't getting SHL time. He makes the move. The points don't look very good, but the move was probably good for him. It was good for everybody. And I think this guy is a star in the making. I really do.
Yeah, when you're looking, we just mentioned they're looking to add skill. This is high-end skill. This is you're in the early 20s here. You're trying to find something that really sticks out. He can score goals. He's a hard kid. He's a stocky, firm kid. So I'm sure they're pretty excited to get him in the early 20s with all his skill level.
Yeah, 9 points at U18. Little side dish of pasta. Little penne.
Exactly.
Okay?
That's a la vodka.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Vanilla vodka.
Chef's kiss. The reaction. Yeah, it's good. It means a lot. As these next year, remember, we'll be back in person in Montreal. Looking forward to that. As the NHL draft, dreams still come true. Still pretty cool. Feeling still the same with your family, celebrating the greatest hockey moment so far. Holland and the Edmonton Oilers moved down a couple of spots to get a third. And then Minnesota moved up to take the Swedish goaltender we thought maybe Kenny Holland would take, but he does not. As the pick is in for the Edmonton Oilers, who do they take in this selection as they move a couple of slots down to number 22? What are you thinking there, Sammy?
Oh, boy. We still have that run of that second-tier defenseman. We talked about Lambos, Kulemans, Daniil Cheka. You got a real sniper in Samu Tuomola. Chibrikov is a really interesting player, a captain for Russia's under-18 team. I don't know. You got me befuddled on this one.
Well, Gary Bettman will answer our questions. Commissioner.
For the 22nd selection in the 2021 NHL Draft, from Rogers Place in Edmonton, Alberta, Ken Holland, president of hockey operations and general manager of the Oilers, will make the pick. Ken?
Edmonton Oilers select from Shawinigan of the Quebec Junior League, Xavier Bourgault.
There you go. Pay those Portrush dues, Kenny. Slippery, good release. This guy good, huh?
Xavier Snipe Show is what they should call this guy. Yeah. So he's played for 3 different coaches in 3 years. It started with Danny Renault. He was a younger coach. Then they moved into Gordie Dwyer, a little bit of a veteran coach. And Ronnie Scholes had him for the last year. And so that can be difficult on a player. But at 16-year-old season, this guy had 33 goals. The problem was he ranked 95th in the league in shooting. So a 21.6 shooting percentage, that's heady stuff. It's usually down in the low teens. Yeah. Comes back this year, 20 goals, 20 assists, 40 points. But again, ranked 25th in the league in shots on goal. So what's up? Well, he's playing on a line with Xavier Bourque, Maverick Bourque, rather, who was a first-round pick from Dallas last year, and he often deferred to him. Let the older guy have it. Let the older guy have it. And then you kind of realize that I'm a really good shooter. I got to shoot the puck more. He has really good deception off the blade. I think about Connor McMichael was taken by Washington a couple of years ago. This guy has really good deception off the blade. And whether it's the release point or whether it's the blade angle, there's something about a shot that's really deceptive and really difficult for goaltenders to pick up. And that speaks to the high shooting percentage in both of those years.
You're absolutely right. When you have a crafty release like that, and I spoke to the great Patrick Waugh, who's the GM coach of the Quebec Rampart and the Quebec Junior League, on the way in here today. And I can echo what you're saying. When you have a shooter that's able to kind of change the release point, freeze, get the deception, give misinformation to the goalie only has a fraction of a second to be able to react and make a save. He has an uncanny ability of being able to do that and freezing goalies and beating them cleanly.
Yeah, a pretty good job for them to move down. They saw that he was going to be there. They felt he was going to be there. They knew the list. They got an extra pick out of it, and then they get their guy. It's pretty good.
Cool.
All right, so the NHL Draft 2021 continues on. Take a look at the big board again. Historic night again for Michigan. 4 of the first 5 picks of the draft, Michigan Wolverines. And then Jesper Wallstedt makes some news there. Does Billy Guerin? He moves up to 20 to take the Swedish goaltender. He's with Jackie Redmond.
Jesper, congratulations. I understand it's 4:30 in the morning where you are, so I will try to make this quick. What does it mean to you to see a team like the Minnesota Wild trade up to get you because they value you that much?
Yeah, I'm very happy for that. I think Minnesota is a great organization, and as you say, they train up only to get me. So I'm very happy for that, and I'm really looking forward to this.
Are the rumors true? Does your family live down the street from Nicklas Lidstrom? And if so, what is the relationship like between you and the Lidstrom? Do you guys have barbecues? What's the backstory?
No, it's true that we live on the same street, but we just see each other sometimes and say hey to each other.
Right, well, that's a pretty cool experience that I'm sure lots of hockey fans would be jealous of. But congratulations on being drafted tonight, and best of luck moving forward.
Thank you a lot.
A sought-after netminder, Billy Guerin, gets him at number 20, and we bring in Elliot Friedman now with more on Jesper Wallstedt. Just curious, Elliot, how many teams were trying to get Jesper Wallstedt?
Well, I think it's at least 3 that offered to move up to try to take that pick away from Edmonton. It's a good thing he got sent the full box of hats because it could have been a couple of different ones. Obviously, Minnesota, I think LA did too, and I believe there was at least 1 or 2 more. The thing is that Edmonton didn't want to move too far down. Bourgault was a guy they wanted. I like the nicknames you guys were just giving him, and there's a reason that Edmonton didn't want to go too far back because they wanted to make sure they still got him. But there was a lot of action behind him, and it was Minnesota simply because it was a short drop for Edmonton that was able to make it. LA in particular was too far back.
And they still get Xavier Bourgault 2 picks later. And so now it is Dallas. Remember, they flipped spots with Detroit. Detroit moved up to take their goaltender, Sebastian Cossa. So, boy, a real disappointing year last year for the Dallas Stars after reaching the Stanley Cup final. Didn't make the playoffs. Gary Bettman with the Stars.
From the Dallas Stars practice facility in Frisco, Texas, Dallas Stars general manager Jim Nill will make the 23rd pick in the 2021 NHL Draft on behalf of the Dallas Stars. Jim?
The Dallas Stars are proud to select from Windsor of the Ontario Hockey League, Wyatt Johnston.
Family is pumped. Wyatt didn't play this past season. The OHL shutting down. How do you evaluate a guy who didn't play?
This is an amazing story. And no games, except for someone had watched him in his 16-year-old season. Trevor Letowski, the head coach, now with the assistant coach with the Montreal Canadiens, loved him. His second half of his 16-year-old year, just under a point per game. And he started to open eyes with that great hockey IQ. Hockey Canada had the nerve to take this guy without playing any games. Yeah, he looked around. He couldn't find a place to play. The other high-end Ontario kids all went over to Europe. Wyatt Johnston didn't. So they call him. He goes to play for the under-18s. Dave Barr says, "We think we know what you are. We want you to play a third-line checking role." So now you're Wyatt Johnston. You're saying, I haven't played a game all year. I've got one chance to audition my skill set and my point-scoring ability to all the scouts, and you want me to play a checking role? This guy didn't say a word. He accepted that responsibility. He took on that responsibility and was absolutely brilliant in that role. That speaks to everything about this guy and his character. And when they got up in games, Dave Barr said, we'll give you a couple cookies in the power play. We're up. We're going to get you out there a lot more often. I love this pick here. I thought they might be able to slide back a little more, but he was on some teams' radar towards the end of the first round. This is an amazing story for a guy who really had a 7-game audition in his draft year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And listen, as a lot of the people in their war room there are wearing the Mental Miles T-shirts in support of what Stephen Johns, their former player, is doing right now in endeavoring and rollerblading across the country. I got to tell you, when you think of mental and the importance of your mental health, your mental acuity, your focus, all those things coming into play, all those are underscored by your point. The guy didn't play all season. And you go to under 18, and you know that everything's almost riding on the line for this draft anyway. Yeah. Everything's riding on it. He delivered aces for Team Canada.
Yeah, when you hear his name, you're hearing everybody say he's been on the move here. And, why wait? If you're Dallas, you like him. At this point in the draft, you're getting a guy you like, go get him.
Florida Panthers are on the clock. A great year for them, of course. They won 71% in terms of a point percentage. That was the highest in franchise history. We'll get to them in a second. But first, a big night for the Columbus Blue Jackets. A couple of nice prospects they have selected thus far. Kent Johnson out of Michigan, Cole Sillinger. Those are their first 2 picks. They pick after Florida makes their pick here at 24. Emily Kaplan's with Jarmo Kekalainen in Columbus.
Jarmo, you picked Kent Johnson and then Cole Sillinger with your first 2 picks. Was there a specific quality you were looking for in players this year?
I think we got a good mix of different qualities, and we got 2 center icemen that we believe that'll make us stronger into the future. We got Kent Johnson, who's highly skilled, great playmaker, and very good, very talented offensive player. And then we got Cole Sillinger, who's a powerful forward. Good goal scorer, can play physical too, competes very hard, and got some size to him. So, I think we got a little bit of everything in what we were looking for in that center ice position.
And as part of the trade with Chicago, you got Adam Boquist, a defenseman. What do you see in him?
We haven't had a great power play for a couple of years. He can run a power play. He ran one of the best power plays in the league with Chicago. He's a right-handed shot. He's a good playmaker. He sees the ice really well. Can shoot the puck. So he'll get a great opportunity here to do that.
And then, Jarmo, I just have to ask you, it has been such an eventful month for this franchise, including the tragic death of Matisse Kivlenieks. How are you holding up?
Well, we've been so busy that I think that you just kind of go about your business and work, and we mourned Matisse, obviously, and had the service here, and that was a very sad time for our franchise and for our team, teammates, everybody that got to know him, but you just have to move on. That's life.
Thank you, Jarmo. Kiitos.
Thank you, Emily, out there in Columbus, Ohio, for us. So there are the selections thus far and the rest of the picks to come here in the first round. The Florida Panthers on the clock, as you can see, their pick coming. And when you have a draft party, you really can't beat a yacht club.
Exactly.
Can you?
Sick.
How would
That's
you
so you. See, that is so
It's
right up my alley. I got to say.
Spalding, get your foot off the boat.
I got to say. I got Caribbean parents, man. I can't swim, but I can skate.
How would you like to mow my lawn? So yeah, when you're good, it's tough to get better, isn't it, Jeff? You got to, again, they're coming. They got the young goaltender Spencer Knight. A lot will really determine his maturation. The better he is, the better they'll be. Obviously, again, when you're in this mode as an organization, a veteran head coach, you're looking to win now. It's time to get going.
Yeah, and you know what? When you're good and you get better, the reward is you're in the back of the draft.
Yep.
You're not in the top 10, and you got to be really good here. And hopefully they have a couple guys in mind here that they know well and they're focused on, and the guys are pounding the table.
How about an Atu Ratu?
Oh, yeah.
How about Atu Ratu? It was projected to go 1 this year. Things have changed. Dynamics have changed. Still going to go, we presume, in this first round.
There he is.
But Atu Rati, Ratu was the spelling, and now that's been corrected, of course, in the pronunciation. But I'm curious to see where this goes. I'm curious to see.
Well,
what do you think?
You have a Finn like Barkov who could mentor a young man, but he's such an interesting story that the numbers don't quite add up with this guy. So that's the thing you have to be wondering about. You love the work rate, you love the size, the skating ability, good hands, but something just doesn't add up here. You play as a double underage at the World Juniors, and then you come back the next year and you don't make that team. There's a lot of predictive markers when you look at draft-eligible players playing in the Liga. Typically, they end up a half a point per game or better. It just didn't work out that way. Now, maybe for Ratu, we have to give him a bit of a hall pass. The pandemic, it affects people in different ways. We don't know how that quite works out. But he is a very interesting study as we get to this back end of the draft.
Zachary Lura?
Yeah, it was a weird and big fall for sure.
Yeah.
As we await Florida's pick and see what direction they decide to go in. Bill Zito down there running the show.
Got a huge year.
Here's the big board.
Massive year for them.
Chad Lucius on his way to Minneapolis to play for Bob Motzko and the Golden Gophers. He's with J.P. Morosi.
Here with Chaz Lucius, the newest member of the Winnipeg Jets organization. And Chaz, your emotions as you hugged your parents, Chuck and Tammy, when you found out the news you're going to be a Jet.
Yeah, it was obviously unbelievable. First and foremost, I mean, they've done so much for me, and I really thank them. And then obviously for the Winnipeg Jets organization to believe in me. I mean, I couldn't have dreamed it any better.
For you to have Cruz, your brother, here with you and celebrate with him, what does that mean?
It means everything. Obviously, we've been through a lot together. Obviously, he plays at the NTDP as well, and obviously next year he'll go through this. So, really happy for him and glad to call him my brother.
How do you describe your journey during this season, coming back from the injury and showing just all the talent that you have?
Yeah, obviously, nobody wants to hear that they're going to have surgery during their draft year, but I feel like I really made the most of my time. I feel like I became a better player in person from it. So, I mean, overall, I really, I feel like I had a great year, and I look forward to proving my abilities and skills.
A great journey for you from Grant, Minnesota now to being a first-round draft pick, Chaz. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Back to you.
All right, so Chaz, 1Z, 18 there to Winnipeg as we await the Florida Panthers pick. Columbus will make their third here in the first round. And Commissioner Gary Bettman will introduce the Panthers.
The 24th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft will be made by the Florida Panthers. Shane Trilla, Director of Amateur Scouting for the Panthers, is with us from the Lauderdale Yacht Club in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Shane?
The Florida Panthers are proud to select from the Chicago Steel of the USHL, Mackie Samoskevich.
Another Michigan Wolverine, Mackie Samoskevich, a tight-knit family from Newtown, Connecticut. Sandy Hook. Twin sister Maddie plays for Quinnipiac, the Bobcats. And so the night for Michigan continues. Again, this guy's also headed to Ann Arbor to play for the Wolverines. And what kind of player is Mackey, Sam?
Oh, unbelievable that he's one of those really good skating players, and a guy, again, who's tenacious on pucks. His work rate is awesome. Yes, he has the ability to score goals, but I think the foundation is his ability to really hunt down pucks and play that bulldog style, not dissimilar to what you see from Matthew Coronato. So I like what he's able to bring to the table. I think this is a situation here where you're looking at another Michigan guy. My goodness, what is Mel Pearson going to do over there with all of this wealth of talent that he has in front of him? But good opportunity for him to go and play, at least get to the World Junior Camp and see how things work out for him.
Yeah, character kid, great family, know him well. Like you said, from Newtown, can really shoot the puck, strong on the puck. I like that pick a lot.
When you got on the road, too, these are the types of players, as one general manager told me, this is the type of player that you want on the road. Road games, tough matchups, going into a hostile environment, playing on the road, Stanley Cup playoff game. These are the type of guys that you need in your group, and that goes a long way. That's a huge compliment for a young player.
And Maddie and Melissa, his sister, and of course mom and dad, and you know those events of Sandy Hook Elementary School. You know, they're right there, and that changed everybody in that little town of Newtown, and certainly that attended that school like they did, and that's a tight family.
Yeah, and largely because of that. I mean, the healing. There's people that you knew that had perished in that shooting, and you're thinking to yourself, as a family, how much more you appreciate your family members that sometimes you take advantage of, or take for granted, in a situation where now you're all forced to come together and you have to be there, because how sad would it be to have witnessed that?
Did something you sense, Jeff, knowing them?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Very humble kid, too. Like, he's not walking around telling everybody how good he is. He's working hard. He's out at Ben Prentice working every day. So really proud to see this kid go in the first round.
Absolutely. Yeah. Maybe a little earlier, maybe there's some thought, but right in the ballpark. But certainly the Florida Panthers noticed some of those character traits, and they select the Michigan Wolverine to be with the pick. The Blue Jackets, it's been a good night so far. The Sillinger family celebrating Cole's first-round selection. Ken Johnson, look how pumped he was, like he just scored a goal, going 5th overall to the Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets select again. Who will be their third #1 pick of the night? We'll find out next. Welcome back to the 2021 NHL Draft. Michigan, the first school with 5 players or recruits selected in the first round of the draft. Columbus has one of those selections, and Kent Johnson going 5th. Then they took Cole Sillinger. And you see other recent first-round picks. Of course, Pierre-Luc Dubois traded to Winnipeg. The Patrick Laine deal. There's Zach Werenski still hanging around Columbus, as you see Seth Jones leave today for Chicago in that big trade. As the Blue Jackets, their third pick of the first round is in. Commissioner Gary Bettman.
For the 25th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft, we return to Nationwide Arena, where the Columbus Blue Jackets will round out their hat trick of first-round draft picks, and Jarmo Kekalainen, the general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets, will make the pick. Jarmo?
To announce our next selection in the 2021 NHL Draft, I'd like to introduce a Day 1 Blue Jackets season ticket holder, Matthew Earn.
With the 25th pick in the 2021 NHL Draft, the Columbus Blue Jackets select defenseman Corson Ceulemans from Brooks of the AJHL.
All right, so Columbus, well, they lose a right-handed shooting defenseman today to Chicago Blackhawks, and they select a right-handed shooting defenseman. Good size as well, Sam.
Well, they've addressed the forward position pretty good, so it was time to go to the D. The 2 goalies were gone, so this does make logical sense. We've talked about getting into that second tier of defenseman. Ceulemans would represent that. Pretty cool story how he got his name Corson. His dad goes out to the bar one night, gets into the sauce with Shane Corson, and comes home and says, you know what? we're going to name our son Corson. And it worked out pretty well, so that's kind of a cool story. But, you know, good height, 6'2", 198 pounds. Here's a guy who skates really well, sometimes a little bit loose in the way he plays, but that's what you get when you allow an offensive defenseman to do his thing. Every now and then they're going to get caught and they're going to make the wrong play and they're going to give up odd mans the other way, but you live with that risk knowing that the upside for him to produce offense is there. And we're seeing the AJHL, Cale Makar, we talked a little bit about him a couple of years ago. I don't know if he's quite on that level, but he's going the same route as Cale Makar. So I really like this player, and you address the two forwards early on, and now you get a really good defenseman.
I think it's a real good value pick here because Kuhlman's has a lot of skill, very talented. I've spoken to some people that have gotten a chance to see him, albeit briefly, with Brooks in the AJHL, and he's a guy that can really control the tempo of a game. He doesn't force plays. He generates his offense within the rhythm of the play. And there's a sign of maturity. He just has to get a little stronger physically, but I love the mature way that he's able to make plays within the flow.
Oh, they had me at right-handed defenseman from Brooks, right? They had me hooked. But he's going to Wisconsin, which has a real history of developing defensemen. There's got a lot of them in the National Hockey League, so it looks like a pretty good fit after those two forwards.
Including one of yours, and Keandre Miller, who you selected with the Rangers.
Yeah.
Marco Siki and Tony Granato do a great job there for. They try to reload this year as they have a lot of players leave Wisconsin after a successful season in the Big Ten last year. Commissioner Gary Bettman, another pick is in.
For the 26th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft, Bill Guerin is back, general manager of the Minnesota Wild, from Trier Rink in St. Paul, Minnesota, to make the selection. Bill?
We'd like to give a big shout out to all our fans across the great state of Minnesota. And now for our next selection will be Weston Curvers.
With the 26th pick in the 2021 NHL entry draft, the Minnesota Wild are proud to select Carson Lambos from the Winnipeg Ice.
It's a good-looking family right there, those Curvers kids doing a great job, showing lots of courage to do what they're doing. And Carson Lambos, another defenseman, left-handed, shooting, good size. He's a full-grown man just about.
The interesting backstory about this young man is when you go back to his 16-year-old year, he played in the top pairing. He got all the top matchups against. He was still able to produce. He logged heavy minutes. And as a 16-year-old defenseman in that league with all the travel in the Western Hockey League, that is a really difficult challenge, especially when you're on the easternmost part of where that league plays. Everything they have to do, they have to go west to play. Yeah, they got Brandon close by, but after that, it's really difficult. So at that point, he was projected as a top 10 pick because he could do everything. He was that all-around defenseman. Well, he comes back this year. He ends up going over to Finland. He plays in a couple levels over there, and you have to think how difficult that must be. You're worried about the health, the pandemic. You go to a new ice surface. As a defenseman, the angles are a lot different there, so you might be overwhelmed. Then you're playing against men. Different food, different language, all of these things that he had to overcome. And so now you're wondering, what's going on with this guy? He doesn't look like the same player. He comes back, he gets into a couple of games with Winnipeg, and then they realize that there's a medical issue. He undergoes the ablation procedure. It's all fixed up now, but no doubt it had to be very, very painstaking sitting there watching because the whole family and the player knows, I'm a much better player than where I'm being picked here at 26. But what's going on here with the year he had? I think you have to go back and have some really good intel on a 16-year-old year to justify this pick and say, oh, I think we have a steal here.
Yeah, he moves like an NHLer when you look at him. Yeah. You know, they get the goalie first. They go get a defenseman that maybe not a lot of people have been able to see too much with some upside. It's a pretty good first-round pick for Billy G.
Reminds me a lot of Jake Sanderson. Very similar.
Nice.
Very similar, comparable. And what we saw from Jake Sanderson last year in the draft, very, very similar in terms of their style of play, their ability to skate, get up and down the ice, and have a little bit of snarl and some jam, some physicality on that back end.
All right, 6 more picks to go here in the first round. Carolina, as you can see, is on the clock. And Wyatt Johnston, as we mentioned, the Dallas Stars pluck him at 23 with Jackie Redmond.
Wyatt, congratulations on being selected by the Dallas Stars. You must be elated. After a season where you didn't get to play a whole lot, how much more does this moment mean to you?
It means so much to me. It's pretty special. Just having the chance to get drafted to the NHL has been a dream of mine for as long as I can remember. And just being drafted by the Stars is an amazing feeling. And it's been a pretty different year this year. For me personally and for everyone. So it's an amazing feeling.
If you could describe yourself to Stars fans that might be watching, how would you pitch yourself? What would you tell them that they are getting in a player like you?
I'm a versatile two-way forward. I think I'm someone who can pretty much do anything for the team to, help the team win. And I'm willing to do anything to help the team win, and I'm just super excited to get started.
And you already got the pro-level flow with the wings coming out of the hat. So kudos to you. Congratulations again, and best of luck. Enjoy the night with your family.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, too much lettuce for the bowl there, but hey, it looks beautiful.
Nothing wrong with that.
Carolina's got a lot of good mojo, right?
Oh,
Rod Brind'Amour's got that team's pulse. They're great on special teams. They've been one of the best teams in the league the last 3 years, but what they got to do to get over the hump to really become a player in the Eastern Conference as maybe the Penguins age, the Capitals age, the Bruins maybe getting that point. So this is their chance now to make a move. What do you think about the Hurricanes as a whole, as an organization, and how do you make that final leap?
Yeah, they've done a really good job drafting and developing players, right? As you look down at Aho or Svechnikov, they got some real high-end players. What do they have to do? I mean, they're in a division with Tampa Bay, so that's a tough one. They're going to have to beat them someday, right?
At some point, yeah.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. But they've done a real good job building their team. I mean, ultimately, you look at even their young guys. They took Jarvis, I think, last year. So a good player. I think Jack Drury's going to be good. So they have a lot of forwards. Maybe ultimately, if they could find a D, but again, where you're picking, you're probably going to go for your best player.
Yeah, I'd agree that Dominic Bach is really skilled too. He's got a lot of talent. The young shot of Germany, and Suzuki's brother is really talented too, as you know from seeing him in the O. I think all things being equal, they're going to look for a certain pedigree. Players that come to the rink as consummate pros, like Rod Brind'Amour, their head coach, my former teammate, the great Rod Brind'Amour, who, of course, won the Coach of the Year, the Jack Adams. He was awesome.
I think there's one piece about the direction that Carolina has gone here. And you look at Tom Dunn, the owner, and he applies analytics in his business. He's obviously a very successful businessman. They moved on from their head scout, Mike Dawson, Robert Cron. They've moved on. They're now working with Seattle. And so I think the analytics department will have a heavy say in what happens here, especially with this draft pick. You get in the lower end of the first round, and you're thinking about some of that uncertainty. You're hoping that the analytics will be able to help make that decision for you, and I think they'll lean on it here.
Well, maybe there's no one they love because we apparently have a trade working on this selection. We'll see perhaps somebody moves up. We'll find out when we return to the 2021 NHL Draft, the night that dreams come true, and we see a lot of different couches. Great night for the Boucher family. Tyler, as you can see right there, first-round NHL draft pick. His dad, Brian Boucher of ESPN and ABC from Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Same hometown as Brian Berard, that little town of Rhode Island. 2 NHL players, 2 good ones as well. JP Morosi is with the father of Tyler.
Here with ESPN hockey analyst Brian Boucher. Brian, how did the Senators do with their 10th pick tonight?
They did a fantastic job. They did their homework, I guess. I'm thrilled. A heck of a day for Tyler. Really proud of him. He had a really tough year injury-wise. A couple of different knee injuries, illness, and he battled through it. And he stayed positive. And I think everybody eventually playing hockey, they're going to face adversity. You just don't know when it's going to come. And for him, it came this year in an important year. He stayed with it, and he's rewarded for it tonight. So super proud of him. Ottawa is a very good team that's on the ascent, and hopefully he'll be a big part of that.
When you think about, Brian, just the sacrifice that goes in to moving to Michigan here, to being away from home, as a dad, what is it like to watch a night like this?
Yeah, I mean, it just brings back so many memories for myself, right? I mean, I played junior hockey in the Western Hockey League. An American kid went out west and did that to chase my dream, and was fortunate to play in the NHL a little bit. And you hope your kid likes hockey enough that he wants to do that, and he put all the work in, and he deserves all the credit. And then to see him have a moment like this. it's overwhelming, truthfully. I mean, it's one thing when it happens to you personally, but when it happens to your child, I mean, it's something that brings out a lot of pride, and I'm super proud of him. I know my wife Melissa is as well, and his sister Brianna. It takes a village, truthfully, and the guys here at the U.S. program, everybody, it's too many to name. I mean, Brian Gallivan, the strength coach, I mean, he spent so much time with him in the weight room because he was injured. The work that he put in with him, I mean, the coaches from John Wroblewski, Dan Highnote, Dan Muse, Mike Leone, I mean, these guys put in a lot of work with Tyler, and I'm forever grateful to them. And I'm also grateful to Jenna and Chris Osgood, who we lived with, the Billets here in Detroit. I mean, he had a great Billet family, a beautiful house. They took very good care of him, and they deserve a lot of credit because they were the parents away from us and allowed him to be comfortable and do his thing.
Always trust a fellow goaltender, Brian.
Always, absolutely.
Congratulations on everything. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, John. Thank you.
Back to you.
All right, Bush. Well done. We'll see you at the rink. All right, so we have a trade. Carolina was set to select next at 27. Commissioner Gary Bettman with the details.
The Carolina Hurricanes trades pick number 27 in this year's draft to the Nashville Predators in exchange for picks 40 and 51, both in the 2021 NHL Draft. So to reiterate, Carolina trades 27 to Nashville in exchange for 40 and 51, and that means Nashville, you're on the clock.
All right, so a couple second rounders are heading to Carolina. Must not have seen a player they love there, so they'll get a couple selections in the second round, just 11 selections apart. Meanwhile, Nashville has identified a player. So, again, take us in the room, Jeff, when that happens. You see a guy, you see one specific guy, do you see a group of guys? Like, what do they think when they make a move like that?
I think it's one. I think at this point in the draft, they're saying, wow, this guy's still here.
Okay.
We have him. Maybe they have him as high as 10. Maybe
Right.
they have him, top 15, and he's still there. They really like him. They want
And
him.
you really make those selections before the draft when they say, we had him high on our board. That was legitimate. You had him that high on your board.
Well, most of the time, I think it's sometimes a tagline we use.
Right.
We all say that. We all have to go home happy.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. But this is a team that really likes a player that has him higher than most, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another team that can go back and get 2 second-round picks. Like Carolina, they've done that a few times. We've seen that before. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to me because I look at they've had 20 picks the last 2 drafts, and then I look at they've now got 3 seconds, they get 2 thirds, a fourth, a sixth, and 3 sevenths. After a while, like what's happening here? So I think the analytics no doubt plays a piece of it. And Jeff, you'd be able to tell us here when you're looking at your sheet, you have pick values. So you're looking at this pick is worth this, and the analytics really come into play there. Everyone has that pick value board. Carolina utilized it here.
Let's see who Nashville values at this pick right now, Commissioner Gary Bettman.
We're going back to Nashville, and outside the Bridgestone Arena, David Poyle, President Hockey Ops and General Manager, is going to make the 27th selection in the 2021 draft. David?
Thank you. From Halifax in the Quebec Major Junior League, the Nashville Predators are proud to select Zachary Leroux.
All right, talk about sandpaper. We had 4 suspensions this year for Zachary Leroux. He's a stocky kid who's hard on the puck, and Preds fans love those kinds of guys.
They sure do. And one of those suspensions happened to come on Easter. And so he's with Andrew Simmons' billet, and the daughter says, hey, I want to get up with you in the morning and do an Easter egg hunt. And they're like, nah, you got to play against Charlottetown tomorrow night. Don't worry about it. He gets up at 5:30. He does the Easter egg hunt. He goes to the rink. They play against Charlottetown. He scores 2 goals, one in the power play, one shorthanded. He misses in the shootout. They lose in the shootout. He's getting interviewed after the game. What does he do? He's hot. This guy wears his heart in his sleeve. He flips him the bird. That cost him 2 games. And a couple of other suspensions mixed in there as well. His story really starts at the Canada Winter Games for Quebec, an underdog against Ontario in the gold medal game. This guy scores the overtime game winner in what was a pretty big upset on an awesome, really deep Quebec team. He goes to Moncton, has a really good first year there. He gets traded to Halifax. People are starting to question his character. He is a player that needs a little bit more discipline, a little bit more accountability, and a little bit more structure. But you're talking about that bulldog guy who's going to play deep in the playoffs, who's going to play hard, who's going to play heavy, and he's still going to beat you with some skill. This This is that guy. So all of the questions about his character, a lot of people were doing a deep dive on this guy when you talk about those 4 suspensions, but you're able to say there safely that it's more immaturity. I see pictures with his billet. He's hanging out with the family, playing guitar with the brothers, John Sim, the ex-NHLer. Yep. They're all drinking beers. Zachary Leroux, he's playing guitar. He's not drinking beers, but he's getting involved, and he's into that family dynamic in the billet household. Sometimes you sit there like a wallflower. Sometimes you get engaged. Leroux's one of those guys that'll sit down between Andrew and his wife while they're watching TV. Hey, let's hang out here. You know, he's that type of kid.
Extrovert, eh?
I like that. I like the fact that he's that bold. I spoke to John Torchetti about him, who knows him obviously from his time in Moncton, had great things to say. He wears 66, not as a disrespect to the great Mario Lemieux, but as an homage to his mom, actually. And I think, and I really see this too, Gortz, every piece of tape that I watched on this guy screamed Brad Marchand. Now, sorry for a lot of the fans that are up there in Boston, because you've got your guy, but maybe this is a Brad Marchand light, a diet Sprite, a diet version of Brad Marchand that can impact the game offensively and be a shift disturber.
Yeah. Obviously, they like him. They stepped up for him, right? Culture changer, right? So yeah, if I'm the general manager, hearing all these stories, I'd just be waiting in training camp to see him play. You know? I start to get excited. But we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Nashville. What happened this week was really a cool story with the Luke Prokop.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's really cool for the NHL and how they handled it. And Nashville, I thought, did a great job too.
No question.
Yeah, universally accepted by everyone in every corner of the hockey world. It really was a beautiful moment. It was awesome for obviously for Luke, most importantly, but then for Nashville and then the whole league as a whole. But who did he flip off? The Easter Bunny? I lost track.
No, it was all the fans. They were giving it to him because he missed in the shoot. He still got interviewed. He flipped off everybody.
Do that to you.
It didn't matter. As soon
Don't
as
worry,
that finger went up.
We wouldn't do that to you.
That one finger
Get him a
equaled
hat.
2 games.
Get him an overtime challenge hat. Get him one.
We got swag.
Yeah.
We got a lot.
Swag him up. Don't be tight.
The attic is bursting. The Avalanche. All right. Here's a team who's where are they at? Applebee's? Oh, there you go. The Breckenridge Brewery.
All right, we see it now. Yes.
Downstairs at Eric's. Where are they? So they're out there in Breckenridge. That's up there close to Aspen on the way, I think.
Yep. Higher altitude up there.
Oh, the pick is in. They're thirsty. Gary Bettman.
The 28th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft will be made by Executive Vice President and General Manager Joe Sakic on behalf of the Avalanche from the Breckenridge Brewery in Littleton, Colorado. Joe, you're up.
Thank you, Gary. First of all, I just want to welcome all these great fans here to our draft party. It's like everybody's having a great time. On behalf of our entire organization, we'd like to welcome from HV 71, Sweden, Oscar Olausson.
All right. Well, when you're in a brewery, it's going to be loud. I guess they're in Littleton, not Breckenridge. That's just the name of the brewery. My bad. This guy's goal scorer had 14 goals in 16 games this year. Good soccer player growing up, so good feet as well. What do you know about Oscar, Sammy?
Yeah, 6'1", 180 pounds, a left shot guy, and a guy who was the youngest player for Sweden at the World Juniors. He's only the only first-year draft eligible player on that team. But you talk about great skating ability and the ability to marry that with some skill, and that's what you have in Olausson. It's really difficult, and especially with the pandemic. You play at 3 different levels, so you're adjusting to different coaches, different systems, you're adjusting to different rinks and travel and all those sorts of things. And unfortunately for this young man, and it happens oftentimes in Sweden, that you get to play at those 3 different levels. You do so well at one, you move up to the next. We don't quite have enough time for you at the SHL, so the numbers move down a little bit when you would expect more from a first-year draft eligible. That wasn't necessarily the case. And so during this time of the pandemic, kind of a quiet, shy, introverted guy when we talked to him throughout the course of our interviews. But again, that skating and goal-scoring ability marrying together, you think you have yourself a player that's going to contribut down the road.
It looks like elite talent, which Joe Sakic makes sense to me. A late pick here in the first round to get elite talent. They've had a lot of luck with that, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, it could complement that really well. We know that obviously they've got an outstanding top 6, and that top line is as good as anybody's in the league. One of the best on the planet, for sure. But one thing that keeps coming back to me on hearing reports on him out of Sweden is the versatility that he has, and also the fact that he's a mature kid, and he's a team-first player. And that goes a long way because when you come to a franchise like Colorado that has these electrifying players, Cale Makar, Nate McKinnon, Sam Girard, Rantanen. I mean, we can go. Will Landeskog be there? That's the question.
Big question.
But nonetheless, when you go to a team, and of course Bowen Byram, who they drafted out of the Dub, those guys can all light it up. They're electrifying players, and this is a player that's more of a glue skill player that can perhaps complement this group one day.
And a team who's ready to win now. Any of these picks you think are a possible trade deadline move when you're looking to try to make that final piece to win the Cup in Colorado, because it's time to go there. So the Avalanche select. New Jersey's now on the clock. We have 4 selections left here in the first round of the 2021 draft. Again, virtual this year for the second straight year. Next year, hopefully in person in Montreal, where the families can get together in the stands and have our conventional draft once again. And the Devils picking earlier tonight, of course. It was a family affair. That awesome view right there of Jack Hughes hugging his now teammate and brother, Luke. Not quite a teammate yet. Luke will go to Michigan for at least a year. And as he continues to add size and strength, there's Quinn, the Canuck, as well, as the Hughes are the first family with 3 top 10 brothers selected in the first round of the NHL draft. And there it is. The Devils sweater goes on for this organization who continues to add pieces, trying to build slowly but surely. And they get this pick from the Islanders. And there is Luke joining other recent first-round picks.
Yeah, they had 3 of them last year, so they went with Alexander Holtz off the top. You get a goal scorer that's got a little bit of power forward mentality. Dawson Mercer is a fascinating player to me, can play in all situations, a really dynamic young man. And Shakir Muhammadulin was a guy that I think rose up the draft boards, a big guy, had real good success at the World Junior A Challenge, and as a result of that, it really set forth him being picked in the first round. So they get another 2 first-rounders here, Tom Fitzgerald being able to stock the cupboards quickly in this rebuild for New Jersey.
I also like somebody that we didn't have on that board there for them, somebody you know from Ottawa 67s, and Kevin Ball.
Yeah, big
I like
baller.
Kevin Ball, big, powerful, really difficult to play against, mean defenseman. I think a lot of the great Ken Danico, our colleague here, Mr. Devil himself, but I see a lot of that in Kevin Ball, and he's an element in their prospect pool that's not talked about enough for me.
Yeah, New Jersey, just keep adding to your pool, right? Give yourself as many chances as you can get.
Got this pick again from the Islanders as we have 4 picks to go, and here's some of the names there. Anyone stand out, Sam? It's like, that'd be a good guy to take right now.
Well, Tuomola is a pure goal scorer. That's something that's hard to acquire. Pinelli's kind of an all-around guy. He's got some quick strike ability, and Aturatu, still sitting there.
All right, Commissioner Gary Bettman.
For the 29th selection in the 2021 NHL Draft, we return to the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, where the New Jersey Devils will have their second pick of the first round. Executive VP and General Manager Tom Fitzgerald, please make the pick.
The New Jersey Devils are proud to select from the Sudbury Wolves, Chase Stillman.
All right, Corey Stillman's son, Chase, with the OHL shutdown, played in Denmark, the U20 League, 16 points, 43 PIMs in 8 games played.
And Sudbury Wolves, they got it going on. They got a little Quentin Byfield. I mean, Corey was coaching there before he left to take off to Arizona. But Chase has some of those Corey capabilities. Corey was such a great playmaker during his time. Chase has that, but he adds a different element. He adds that power forward element. And again, here's a guy who showed up at the under-18s, and we're going to talk about this a lot as we have already, because that was such a great time for scouts to view players best on best in the same age group in a small portion of games. And so Stillman went there, and he started banging the body around a little bit. And at times, he probably got out of his lane. Hey, I need to be a goal scorer. Hey, I need to be the point producer. But Dave Barr pulled him back in his lane. Go play that power forward role. Be a checker. Good things will become of it. And you think about a lot of power forwards, how they have success offensively is that their game keys off what they bring to the table physically. If you have that, everything else seems to fall in place. And I think Stillman is very much that type of player.
No question. I think when you look at Chase Stillman, he's really unique in the fact that having played against his dad, Corey, who had an awesome career since our days in the OHL, he was an offensive guy, a point-producing guy, an offensive generator. And I think the same thing with the other son that's a defenseman, right? In the case of Riley, his skating ability, his ability to evade the forecheck. But what I really like about Chase is the fact that he's starting to embrace that physicality that you talked about as he's growing into his size and his power. And that's kind of carving his own path from the family tree and the genetics, which are amazing. We're going to see another generational player here, NHL, by way of family, but nice to see.
Yeah, and if you look now at all the skill they've drafted, this is a good mix, right? This is a power forward,
right?
All the guys that can have all the talent, and you add him with a blend of talent and some hardness. It's a really good fit at the end of the first round.
Yeah, glue guy Riley with the Blackhawks. So you look at the big board now. We're just about done with the first round here. 3 picks to go: Vegas, Montreal, Chicago. Again, the Columbus Blue Jackets making 3 selections in this first round. The third one is with Jackie Redmond.
Corson, congratulations on a dream come true. I understand you got to spend this moment with your family. How would you describe what it was like to experience that with them?
It was just so surreal, just overwhelmed with emotions. You know, I think they followed me on Twitter right before the pick was made, so I got a little hint, and I told my friend to record it, and it was just so awesome. Getting called on TV and just have all my family and friends there was probably just the best thing ever.
A welcome spoiler, I'm sure. Now, according to my research, you were named after former NHLer Shane Corson, who played with the Habs and the Leafs. Can you give us the background on that story?
Yeah, my dad was at a work conference in Toronto when I wasn't even born yet, and I think later in the night he was down at the hotel bar. And Shane was there after a game. And then I guess they started talking about hockey, and he invited him over his table. And then, later on that night, my dad got back to his hotel room, and he told my mom that he had just met Shane Corson and was hanging out with him all night. And then my mom said to him, he was like, if we ever have a son, then we're going to name him Corson. So that was the story behind that.
It's such a good story. And Shane Corson played over 1,000 games in the National Hockey League. So if you can follow in his footsteps, you'll be set, and the Blue Jackets will be very happy. So congratulations again. Enjoy the moment, and best of luck moving forward.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Shane Corson was a beaut.
Yes, he was.
In the bar?
What a career. Power forward man, too, but yes, in the bar, too.
Yeah, he was a great guest on Spittin' Chicklets this past year. A lot of great stories. He told the boys. Shout out Ryan Whitney. So Vegas is on the clock now, just over a minute to go. As you can see, is the first round coming to a close. Rounds 2 through 7 tomorrow. Just the first round here tonight as the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, man, you talk about hitting the franchise out of the ballpark early on. Still haven't quite got that cup yet, but to go to the finals in your first year, then you lose in the first round, and they go to 2 straight conference finals, and here we are now with some prospects that are in the system there. And what do you make of these fellas?
A couple of first rounders, Peyton Krebs, Brendan Brisson. You're looking at that, and you think about their inaugural year. 3 first-round picks. They had Suzuki, they had Brandstrom there, and they're all gone now. It's interesting how you move parts around when you know you're that close. And so Suzuki looks like he's going to be a fantastic player. It'd be interesting to see Cody Glass, the latest to leave at that 2017 group.
Let's see what Vegas does here. Commissioner Gary Bettman.
From Las Vegas, Nevada, the Vegas Golden Knights selection will be made by Kelly McCrimmon, who's the Golden Knights general manager, and he will be making the 30th selection in the draft. Kelly?
From the Gatineau Olympic of the Canadian Hockey League, the Vegas Golden Knights are proud to select Zach Dean.
There we go, 2-way player. Grandpa Bob was inducted into the Newfoundland Hall of Fame. That's huge.
Oh, yeah.
My Nana was from Newfoundland.
I didn't know this.
And my dad's mom emigrated when she was 18 to South Boston from Newfoundland. So, but Zach Dean, what can you tell us, Sam? What did Vegas get here?
He's the 3rd straight guy from Newfoundland to be picked in the last 3 years. We had Alex Newhook, we had Dawson Mercer last year. Zach Dean is the type of guy that's got a little bit of that old school mentality. He's a really good skater. North-south, he's been challenged more to start to take D wide. But this is a guy who started at center last year. Coaching change, Louis Robitaille goes in there. He moves him over to the wing because he thinks he can be more effective there in utilizing that speed and getting in on the forecheck. So it was a bit of an adjustment for Dean. to get used to it. He was just about at a point per game with the Gatineau Olympiques. But one thing I really like about this guy, around the net, he seems to have touch. He seems to have the ability to find soft ice or quiet ice, and he gets in front, tips, deflections, the ability to anticipate where rebounds are going to be. So in that 15 to 20-foot range, utilize that speed to get there, hold your spot, show a little bit of that old school mentality with the net front presence, and then use your good stick skills to try and put it in the net. So I like what this guy brings to the table. It's the speed is the basis for the success in his game.
Exactly, and I like the fact that he's playing in a tight box, a little tinder box in Hull, in Gatineau, the Robert Gertin Arena in Gatineau. That's a tiny barn, and playing across the river in Ottawa, I'd go over there and watch Jose Theodore and see how he was doing at the time. But that rink forces you to have to think the game quickly, have to really be able to process and execute all in one in tight, confined spaces. So I think that's an advantage for him.
It sounds like a George McVie kind of guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The way he played, right?
Exactly. Well said.
I had a beer thrown at me at that rink. Doing a post
Only one?
Yeah.
Only one.
But the best part?
Yeah.
It was closed. Drank it after. No, I didn't.
Why would you not? Why would you not?
I had to drive home.
That a boy.
Let's keep going, boys. Keep going. I like it.
So good.
2 more picks to go.
So good.
Montreal is on the clock, and then Chicago will end the first round. A pick they switch with Columbus all over the world. Every country celebrating this great moment as you are drafted in the first round of the National Hockey League. Two more picks to go here in the first round of the 2021 NHL Draft. The pick is in for the Montreal Canadiens.
From Montreal, Quebec, at the Bell Center, which will host our next draft, Marc Bergevin, the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens, will make the 31st selection in the 2021 NHL Draft. Marc?
Thanks, Gary. Avec le 31e choix au total, les Canadiens de Montréal sont fiers de sélectionner. With our 31st pick overall in the NT Draft, the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select the Knights de London défenseur Logan Mailloux.
All right. Well, this is something the league probably wishes didn't happen, but now it has happened. You remember, or might have read, news surfaced about a week ago that Mailloux was charged in Sweden earlier this season. Had consensual sex with a young woman in Sweden, took a picture of that without her consent, distributed it without her consent, basically took himself out of the draft, basically telling NHL teams, I don't want to be drafted. That was part of his apology, and trying to obviously deal with this, ask for forgiveness and get through it and get on with his hockey life, we assume. But, sometimes things can't go as fast as people wish they can. And the league can't be happy with this, guys.
The most polarizing pick I've ever seen, maybe in the history of the draft. We went to the 4th round last year that doesn't get quite the play of what the 1st round gets. Mitchell Miller renounced the pick, loses a scholarship to UND. This is an entirely different situation, but of equal magnitude. And when the player says that he wants to renounce himself from the draft,
right?
Yeah.
And then you go ahead and pick him, I have a hard time with that. And the thing is, when you're looking at where this young man is, and he's saying, hey, I need to work on my character, there's other things I need to do, let's not forget about the victim here.
Yeah.
I have a daughter. I would be very concerned about what I'd have to do to that player. Now, the second thing is, we need to talk a little bit about second chances. We live in this cancel culture, which I don't necessarily believe in either. And so you must think, as Marc Bergevin and the Montreal Canadiens, that you're going to be able to support not just the player, but the victim and the victim's family. We can't forget about them here. So without a doubt, the most polarizing pick I have ever seen, maybe ever in this draft, with the publicity of the 1st round. I'm absolutely fascinated that they went down this road. I thought if you deferred a year, you allowed them to do some things, allowed the London Knights and Mark Hunter to support them, to support the player and the family, the victim's family, that maybe there would be some way that you could get back and be in this position again next year. So I'm shocked. There's no machination in the CBA for a player to technically pull himself out of the registry. And so he was always available, although on Twitter on July 20th, he renounced himself. I'm fascinated and flabbergasted and shocked at this pick.
Yeah, I would say that, there's 32 lists of 32 teams that have their players, and he's on one. He's on one, and Montreal's taken him. I will say, they have a ton of former NHL players there that dive into character, spend a lot of time in it. Obviously, they feel comfortable, but the other teams here at the end of the draft, the end of the first round, other teams felt the opposite.
He is a first-round talent. On the ice, he is a first-round talent.
Yeah, no question. From a talent standpoint, there's no question. But you do have to weigh the character. I mean, character is something, and for so many of us that have played this game, regardless of to our age or work in this game, we're always, I know in my case, I felt like I was walking on a tightrope over Niagara Falls with no safety net. And it doesn't always mean that you step every time with the right step, but for the most time you do. In an instance like this is an egregious act that took place, and you hope for him and his sake, and more importantly for the victim's sake, that they're able to come to a place where they can find a little bit of healing, especially on her side and her family's side, and for him as a young man to continue to work on some of the poor decisions that he made and his personal development.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what we do here isn't only playing and working in the business and whatever role. A lot of it is personal development too, and character, and those things for him are areas where he's going to have to clearly improve.
Yeah, lots of questions will be answered in Montreal. Elliot Friedman, we'll bring him in now for more. Elliot.
Well, John, first of all, I just wanted to reiterate something that Sam mentioned. Even though Logan Mailloux came out recently and said he didn't want to be selected from the draft, you can't technically renounce yourself from the draft. If you're eligible, you're eligible. So this was Montreal's choice, even though Mailloux had taken himself out, quote unquote. This was something the Canadians were allowed to do. You can't officially take yourself out of the draft. Just a couple other notes on Montreal today. First of all, the Canadians, one of the wildest stories of the week was Carey Price and just his situation and the fact he was left unprotected in the expansion draft for the Seattle Kraken. Price underwent knee surgery today. They said he's going to be okay for the start of the season. That's the expectation. He also had some other areas of himself looked at, but they decided no surgery was needed. So Price, the Canadians do expect he will be ready to play at the start of the 2021-22 season.
All right, Elliot Friedman with the very latest there in Montreal. And so the Canadians pick is in. One more pick to go. The Chicago Blackhawks. Here's the commissioner, Gary Bettman.
The Chicago Blackhawks will be making the 32nd selection in the first round of the 2021 NHL Draft, which is obviously the last pick of the round. We now go to Stan Bowman, president of hockey operations and general manager for the Chicago Blackhawks at the Fifth Third Arena. He's joined by 8 staff members who are advancing women in our game. Stan?
Thank you, Gary. I'm proud to have 8 talented, accomplished women here with me who are crucial to the success of our hockey operations and youth hockey. Over the last 2 years, we've been determined to add perspective and knowledge that has made us a better staff and organization. This is just the beginning for us. To make our inaugural pick in this draft, I'm turning it over to Megan Hunter.
Thanks, Stan. With the 32nd overall pick in the 2021 NHL entry draft, the Chicago Blackhawks are proud to select from the Prince Albert Raiders, Nolan Allen.
All right, so this is a bit of a reach in terms of where players are rated before the draft. You never know for sure, but Nolan Allen way down on the list. So they trade Seth Jones. They get Seth Jones today, Chicago. Part of that trade was switching spots with Columbus, gave up a young defenseman in that deal, and just take one in the same day, get one right back in Nolan Allen.
They have a couple of second-round picks, and I think Nolan Allen would be still available with either one of those 2 second-round picks. But you have a lot of confidence that this guy is a great defensive defenseman. His mentor, Caden Gooley, went in the first round last year. And you have a Prince Albert coach in Mark Habscheid, who going back to his days in Kelowna has had a great history of developing top-notch defensemen. And so you have confidence in that area. But this is a guy who was 3rd in the Bantam draft. He looks to me as if he projects to be more of that complementary defenseman. He's good first pass guy, can transport the puck a little bit. He's really agile, and he uses his feet to defend, which I like. But he's a guy that I think you're going to look after taking care of business in front of your own net, moving the puck quickly and efficiently, and then allowing others to be able to be the point producers.
Exactly. You know who he reminds me of? and I don't say this lightly because he had an amazing career, Brent Seabrook. Steady Eddie defenseman, physical. As a goalie, you love having a Brent Seabrook in front of you. As you talked about his ability to box out, allow you to get a sight line on the puck, and then impacting the game physically, having some of those tough matchups in front of the net, doing some of the dirty stuff, but also a very agile skater, a smooth skater as well. So that's kind of a little, if you're the Chicago Blackhawks, if you get a player in that mold.
You're going to make their fans happy by saying that name. That's great. Yeah. But it's a little like we thought we'd see the rankings. Some guys would jump up way up with the limited viewings. We didn't see as much.
Right.
But here we see it, and obviously they feel pretty strongly about him. And if he's anything like Seabrook.
Yeah. That's one of the more popular players from that amazing Chicago Blackhawk era of the last decade. So that is it. The first round in the books. There it is. As the first round in 2021 is finished. We're not done yet. After a quick timeout, we'll come back to talk about the first and wrap it up. So there's the first round of the 2021 NHL Draft. Depending on your perspective and your favorite team. Of course, we all have favorite storylines, but we should start with Luke Hughes being drafted by the Devils at 4, joining his brother, and not just any brother. These are high-level brothers. 3 top 10 picks for the first time in NHL family. Look how excited they are for his brother. That's Jack going crazy in the black shirt. And then Quinn there, as you see on his left. Parents, grandparents, neighbors, family, really cool as Luke on his way to Michigan first, but eventually will be putting on that sweater of the Devils to join brother Jack.
Amazing stuff. I mean, historic night, as you were just saying, Bucci.
Yeah.
I mean, fellas, historic night. University of Michigan, the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
That was amazing once again. The Detroit Red Wings plucking Edmondson at 6, and then Kosa, the goalie, and props to the goal union at 15. There's a lot of great storylines tonight. And, hey, this is the start of the journey, too, for a lot of the young kids and boys and girls that are watching. This isn't necessarily the end. This is the start of the journey for those of you that may have not been picked quite yet.
So true. To say 3 guys in the same family in the first round.
Just
can
implausible.
you imagine? People would kill to have one.
Totally.
Right.
And to have these people, it's just amazing. It's a great story. You can see they're already recruiting Quinn.
That's right. On the couch earlier. Careful the tampering. Tampering.
Yeah.
We got some late news from Elliot Friedman. He joins us with his latest. Elliot.
Just don't have all the details yet, John and guys, but I'm under the impression that Florida and Buffalo have continued working on that Sam Reinhart deal. And I don't know all the pieces yet, but they're going hard at it. It sounds like it's going to come down, but I think there's still a trade call that has to take place. But Sam Reinhart, Buffalo and Florida, they're working to try to close this.
All right. Well, again, we talked about Florida. How do you get better? At some point, you got to be bold, and you probably got to do it through trades. You're not going to do it through the draft anymore because you're too close to winning, and it takes time. And plus, the player you take at the back end is 50-50 at best. So this is how you do it, right?
Yeah, and hard not to get drawn to Huberdeau and Barkov.
Exactly.
And if that's a line, that's
that's a line. If that's a line, that's a line.
No doubt. And a big progression that they had. Give them credit down there in South Florida. Spent a lot of time down there. They've really come along. Roberto Luongo's a great add to that organization in his current role. Francois Allaire, goalie department. They had a year. They had themselves a season.
How about Kevin Adams? Kevin
Adams did a good job too.
All power, makes a trade.
No question.
And now another one that he's probably going to acquire more talent or at least picks.
Yeah, Seth Jones wearing the same jersey that he wore, same sweater that he wore in Portland in the WHL. Nice. Exact same jersey, just at the National Hockey League level.
Traded to Chicago and signs a big extension.
I'll get this earpiece fixed yet, too. I see all of you on Twitter. Don't worry.
Got a long day tomorrow, don't you? Big day tomorrow, rounds 2 through 7. Round 1 in the books, prime time. Thanks so much, Sportsnet viewers and ESPN2 viewers. Can't wait for the regular season and, 2.5 months.
Whenever you'd like.